2+2 is proud to bring you the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
This week on the Pokercast, Jaime Staples, James Hartigan, and a ton of mail. Now here they are, wondering if they could last 14 seconds with Ronda Rousey, Adam and Terrence.
Welcome everybody to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. MJ used to always give me shit if I didn't get the sponsor tag in there right away. Sometimes I forget and have to redo it. Yes. I am your host, A. Schwartz, joined as always by Mr. Terrence Chen in studio again this week. Good day, sir.
Hello, hello. It's a beautiful day, and
it's a nice day out.
How's it going with you?
Very good, very good. The Ronda Rousey joke, of course, is a reference to her dominating win in the UFC last week.
She's the female Mike Tyson. Everybody says so. Yeah. Basically, if you show, and it's a very similar thing. People are showing up, only to watch her. People are showing up, and then they're like, "Oh my God, I just paid $60 on pay-per-view to watch a fight that lasted 12 seconds." Like it's the 1990s.
The 80s.
Yeah, it's the late 80s. Mike Tyson, when people would be still getting into I don't know if it was the MGM or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, the venue, Caesar's Palace, I guess it probably was back then, and they would miss Tyson knocking out yet another top 5 ranked heavyweight. Yeah. Ronda Rousey is that level of dominance over her female contemporaries. Not even the first. I mean, she finished Kat Zingano in 14 seconds. I think Alexis Davis was like 18 seconds. Sarah McMahon about a minute. Like it's absurd, and she's doing it in different ways. She's armbarring people. She's slamming them. She's kneeing them in the gut and making them die. She's something else.
She's tough.
Like I've had a lot of guys ask me, it'll be in like the bar or whatever, like, hey, how well, you're a fighter, like, do you think you could, do you think you could like beat most of these women in the UFC and all this kind of thing, or do you think you could beat Ronda Rousey? And my answer is always, I think I could beat a lot of the women in the UFC, if it came down to a fight. But Ronda Rousey would take my arm off and beat me to death with my own arm, because
that's how mean she is.
That armbar, no, it's not about mean. It's just being that armbar. She's practiced that armbar since she was 5 years old. Oh. It's one of those things. Her mom, for those who don't know her backstory, her mom was also a high level judoka. I think she also went to the Olympics, and she was one of these like really aggressive, the equivalent might be like a soccer mom or a hockey mom that just makes sure their kid is perfect, right? So when she was 5 years old, she would wake her out of bed with armbar, make her do arm bars and this kind of stuff. Like,
put her in armbar while she's asleep.
Yeah, this woman has been doing arm bars and defending arm bars since she was able to walk, basically. Wow. And it's hard to get to that level. So if she gets your wrist or any part of your arm or anything like that, it's just, she has so many ways of getting to it. To that and inverting in that position, and that position, a lot of people have never seen that kind of a finish. I mean, it's a little bit getting into like the details of grappling and MMA and stuff like that, but that's not a usual finish. That's sort of like the equivalent of like the between the legs stuff that you might see in the NBA or hockey. It's it's
tough.
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
How long would you last? So what would you set the total the line at on total seconds in the ring?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just the strategy that first of all, the strategy that was employed by Kat Zingano of like running at her is
probably not the right one.
Not, especially if you've got to last longer on it. I don't know. I mean, probably a couple minutes. I mean, I think I'd be okay. I think I probably approached the strategy well, and you never know. Like maybe I get that lucky punch or whatever. I mean, it would have to be that because I can't out grapple her. But yeah, wouldn't look good for me.
Is she gonna fight guys? Could she fight? Like, what is that?
It'll never happen. I mean, it's just so bad for the UFC, and I'm pretty sure every guy in the UFC would destroy her. Like, I mean, even the bottom level ones. I think there's just too much level difference. But I think back about Demetrius Johnson, who's the 125-pound men's champion, so 10 pounds lighter than Ronda, and there was a fight on Fox where he absolutely destroyed Joseph Benavidez. He just caught him with a right hand, and Joseph Benavidez is like considered the number 2 guy at that weight class. Locked him out with a punch so hard, Benavidez was down for like a minute, like drilling his head into the mat. Can you imagine if a man did that to a woman on TV? I mean, because if he lands that punch on her, she's going down just like Benavidez did. So you can never imagine. I mean, if you were the oversight regulating commission, you would never allow it to happen. If you were the UFC, you would never allow it to happen, because the last thing your sport needs once it's getting popular is a man beating the hell out of a woman.
To like a bloody
This
mess,
isn't a tennis match. This isn't Navratilova, fighting against a man. This is real stuff,
That would be pretty scary for sure. Yeah. Today on the show, we have Twitch phenom Jaime Staples, who is going to join us. Of course, got in early. He's a kid from Lethbridge, Alberta. He streams these.
How
MTTs.
Many people listening to the show know where Lethbridge, Alberta is, other than in Alberta? In Canada?
Probably not a lot. Yeah, everybody in Canada probably has a pretty good
You
idea.
do because you've been there, because they have junior hockey there.
They do. My brother played there.
Yeah.
Well, he played against them. Yeah, he played near there. And we also have James Hartigan from the EPT, who's going to come in and talk to us a little bit about. We had Stapes last week, so we're going to have James in and touch on some.
So we had Stapes in last week.
Yeah.
We have James Hartigan, and we have Jaime Staples. That's not going to confuse anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
See if you screw that up you're the intro guy. So.
Yeah. So I got a tweet this week. The Akinator app that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty funny. So it's for those that didn't hear, it's this 20 questions app where you think of a person or a fictional person or real person in your head, and it asks you questions until it gets the right answer. Somebody who listens to the show, and I wish I had it in front of me, but I don't have who tweeted it at me. But they apparently Mike and I are in there.
Oh yeah,
as poker commentators, yeah. And I got the.
You're both in there like together or as distinct entries.
Two distinct entries.
Okay.
And of course, I got the idea for my favorite thing because my son had it, and he of course did all the people that he knows. But so I went home and I said, "See if you can get me in there." And he eventually did after like 30 questions.
Yeah.
And the look on his face was hilarious because he doesn't have a clue like that anybody that listens to the show or what this show's all about, and for him to act, because he's doing like Sidney Crosby and he does all the people that he knows, and then he sees his dad in there and it totally freaked him right out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
It's important. I ran into MJ on Tuesday night.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
I ran into MJ on Tuesday night. I went to the hockey game. I went to my first Canucks game for a while since I'm in town. And I ran into our good friend. I happened to be seated like a section away from him, and I ran into him. And
Sharks game?
Yes, the Sharks game.
Beating we were at the hands of the Sharks?
Yeah, we got beaten on a little bit, and we talked about the Pokercast. And my girlfriend asked him, are you relieved to do the Pokercast, or you miss it at all? And it was a snap response. He was like, "I'm so happy I don't have to do that."
Really?
Yeah.
So he said.
It wasn't even close. He said, but the thing is that I think it's because he feels like he doesn't follow poker enough anymore, and we know, you and I know what kind of guy MJ is. He's Mr. Preparation, right? Like, I mean, I know that you prepare really hard for the show and you work really hard, but MJ needed to be super prepped.
Over prep.
It helps that he's like a human fact remembering machine.
He doesn't even need to look at it.
Yeah, which is why it's so surprising. Like we have, we need all these notes, otherwise we wouldn't remember what we're doing 2 minutes from now. But it just shows. He was so happy. So but good for him. He's not that he doesn't love you all listening, but he's done with it. Yeah, he's done with it. He's pretty happy that he doesn't have to make that particular commitment anymore.
Well, not even the phone call. He, like I said, and a couple of times we kind of just phoned him for fun and didn't tell him we were calling, but I figured that's probably a bad idea. If we're going to do this, let's tell him that I'm calling. So today I'm, sent him a message. I'm like, hey, I noticed that you were tweeting that you were happy about the Jason Somerville signing with Pokerstars. Should we give you a quick call and we can chat about it? He's like, you know what? I wouldn't even have anything to say.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So yeah, he's it's fine. Hey, the busy guy. This guy runs a giant business. He's got 2 kids. Plays a lot of golf very badly, and likes to get out and see gigs and stuff. So he's a busy guy. This takes up a lot of time. But, no question about it. Oh, you've shortened it.
I was waiting for the extended mix. That was
like over a minute long.
I thought we were going to get the extended mix out of that.
We love MJ. We miss him a lot. I want to ask you about you're a podcast consumer.
I am,
much like myself. And a lot of people I've talked to recently have told me that, it's hard because I have like 25 podcasts. I can't get to them all. I pick and choose, which ones I'm going to get to each week and delete some that I don't listen to. And then I get a lot of people telling me they listen to podcasts on 2 times speed.
Yeah. Somebody on our forum said they listened to us at like 1.5 or something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've tried it. Maybe we should talk like this just to fuck them up.
Is this Klansky Minute? What is that? What was that?
Klansky 10 minutes. Yeah, so anyway, have you ever tried it? Is it something that you do?
No, I haven't, because I guess the way I see it is that I listen to podcasts, or I break down podcasts and audiobooks, which is, kind of the same category for me, into sort of two groups, which is, I guess not breaking up, but a continuum from like educational to entertainment, right? So like, most of what I listen to will fall on that sort of scale in most people. And so I think when I want to be entertained is mostly like I want to enjoy it, right? I want to relax, or I want to I want to do something, maybe whatever, I'm at home chopping vegetables or cleaning a house or whatever.
Chopper broccoli?
Yes. And then I don't want to be rushed. So if the person is talking like double speed like this, I do this all the time, you're going to be really hard to listen to. And by the way, anybody who's listening to this show on double speed just got fucked up right there. And if I'm listening to something kind of more educational, now I have to stop and think about it, or would have to constantly pause it. So no, I don't think I have. The only time I've ever sped anything up was I read a book. I think it was Ray Kurzweil's book, or I was listening to an audiobook, Ray Kurzweil's book about the singularity, and the person narrating it was so slow that but even then I could only take it to 1.25x. But yeah. I mean, I guess if you think that you can get the information, but it's not always about just like mass consuming information. I mean, you want to digest this stuff.
Remember when Y2K was coming?
I do.
The big scare.
Of course.
That's what I'm like with the singularity. I'm terrified of the singularity. So I just don't read anything about it.
Yeah.
I just try to avoid it.
The singularity, I think, is one of those things where we know it will almost certainly happen. It's just a weather matter. It's going to like happen in our lifetime, right? Like, well, yeah, what happens is one, and then like when it will happen, whether it'll happen in our lifetime. Because there are people who think it's going to happen in like 25 years, and there are people who are going to think it happens in like 200. So if it happens in 200, it's not going to matter because you're not going to live to see it. But if it happens in 25, you're very likely going to see it. Even if it happens in 50, and we gradually get longer life expectancies and stuff like that than everybody now, who's maybe like in their 20s or 30s is probably like a favorite to see it. But yeah, it's definitely a scary thing, but it could also be an awesome thing. Who knows?
I read something else that I don't quite believe, and you mentioned as life expectancy gets longer, and I know we got to move on to poker stuff, but I don't know if you saw this. They said that some research organization said the first person to live to 150 is 60 years old right now.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
That would be crazy. That may well be true. It's unclear, right? Because there are people who get to like 115, 120 now, just kind of as outliers, right? Like they're the statistical outlier.
Smoking and
exactly. Yeah, sometimes like they smoke
like
and they drink.
A day.
Yeah, but like there's like women in like Italy and Japan who like live to 120. So an extra so if by the time one of those people who was say destined to get to 120 now, they make it to 100,
they
and
harvest
get
their organs,
extra life extension technology, and they can add on another 20 years. It's not crazy. It's not outside the realm of possibility at all.
I don't remember where I heard this story, but in France, I think there's a cultural thing where if somebody's old and they have an apartment, you can pay them a certain amount of money until they die, and then you get their place. It's like
it's like rent controlled or something.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of like sort of hoping that they pass away earlier, so you get a cheap apartment. You're just paying.
It's kind of like paying a bond or something. Yeah.
And this guy got this really nice apartment in some city in France, and the woman ended up being the oldest woman to ever live.
He ran bad,
and she outlived him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he was just paying her.
She took it personally and said, all right.
That's an awesome... I love that, actually, because, I mean, Ross points out that you're kind of hoping for an old person to die, which kind of makes you feel a little bit guilty. Yeah. But on the other hand, like, I just love the EV calc that goes on, because that's the coolest thing about it. It's just like Adam, I would want to see you do well at the World Series, say, but I would be willing to cross-book against you if you had the right price, because it's nothing personal. I don't want you to bust out, but if there's a money opportunity, then I'm going to take it.
Yeah. Danny Kelly is the guy who found the Akinator app. I just want to give him a quick shout out. Thanks for that. The Pokercast forum is looking at having a fantasy baseball league. We had the fantasy football last year that did quite well. Some people had some fun. The Pokercast is now, I don't really have anything to do with it. I'm not a baseball guy, so I won't be in it. But if you want to get in, head on over to the forum. There's a thread about it, the Pokercast Fantasy Baseball League, and check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, you have to draft only players who aren't on steroids, right? Is that the qualification? Or is that...
Yeah,
that would make it hard,
HGH,
right?
yeah. In case you missed it.
Now, it's time for In Case You Missed It.
How did he miss the open goal? 6x4, and he comes up 0.
Oh, no! Oh, yes! He missed it!
He's missed it! How on earth did he miss that?
Jason Somerville has signed with Team Online at Pokerstars. Very popular signing, I think, for Pokerstars, a no-brainer. Fantastic job by Jason to do what he's done with the Run It Up concept, and it's a perfect fit for Stars.
Yeah, it was one of those signings where you were like, oh, I can't believe that didn't happen earlier.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost one of those things, because usually when an online pro gets signed, first of all, people like start Googling, like, who the hell is that guy? Because it's, you know, some guy in Uzbekistan who is like happens to be the only poker player there, and you're like, oh, okay. Or it's, you know, a really attractive woman in, you know, some country, some market they're trying to hit. But everybody is, I think, unanimous as the poker community gets on any one topic, that Jason Somerville is an obvious pick to be a pro for Stars.
Brings a whole new dynamic. He's changing a lot of things in poker and how it's presented to people.
Yep.
He's doing a fantastic job. He's just started 70 days straight of streaming.
Yeah, and I think he's like averaging 4 hours a day, right? Committing to
the amount of content he's putting out is unbelievable, and he does such a great job with it. I've been watching it this week myself. Yep. He's careful with each and every question that's presented to him. Explains his thought process in all the hands that he plays. It's you know, if you're an MTT guy. And, you know, I would imagine you probably respect his game, but even if you didn't, just watching him and, you know, hearing him talk about some of the hands, he's
It's great entertainment. It's edutainment for sure. I mean, because
that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
yeah, because he definitely does sometimes get into the nuts and bolts of, you know, why he's deciding to bluff on the river or check down the river or whatever it is. But it's done in such an entertaining way. Whereas you look at so many of these poker coaching videos, like you can't watch them for 5 minutes unless you're tremendously committed to learning.
Yeah.
But
Or
he
they're
does so well. I mean,
yeah.
I had an opportunity to work together with Jason at Ultimate Poker for many months, and his work ethic is tremendous. He has so much dedication to his product, and there's no doubt that he's going to be even better in this role when he's got the opportunity now. You know, at Ultimate Poker, he had to play whatever cash game was kind of going at the time, or maybe a sit and go or something like that. But now he has a choice of basically every poker game in the world,
because he's moved up here to Canada. He's
in Toronto.
Yeah,
he's gone over to Toronto, I believe. Should have gone here. What?
Yeah,
that seems like an obvious error. You know, fair. We're gonna have to get him on the show to harass him about that at some point. But you can't be good at everything, I guess. But yeah, he's American. A guy. Not a guy who I know has traveled a lot to my extent. Like I don't remember, seeing him in a lot of other different countries. But he was willing to move from his home in New York to Vegas to do the Ultimate Poker gig because he really, really wanted to do that. Really wanted to get involved with the UFC and Ultimate Gaming and all that. Obviously, we all know the story there. That went south. So relocating from Las Vegas to Toronto, probably not as big a step.
He's dedicated to his listeners. We tried to get him on for the show today, but he's streaming right in the hours that we're recording.
Yeah.
And he's not even like...
should we go to the channel and ask him questions? Is that what we need to do?
Yeah.
Just
on an 8-minute delay.
It. Yeah.
He's crushing the numbers, too. He gets easily 10 times more than the next person.
Well, and it's going to take off now because stars can now spend a lot of time driving traffic, their traffic to him as well.
Right.
Like he's just going to exponentially take off at this point, I think, and good for him. It couldn't happen to a better guy. In case you missed it, Michael the Grinder Mizrachi has launched Tournament Last Longer Betting, has a Tournament Last Longer betting platform, which is... you think there's got to be a million problems with doing something like this, but also on the same hand, I'm thinking that's a really good idea.
Yeah, well, it's done all the time informally,
and to some peril. Once in a while
you don't know if you're going to get paid.
Yeah, you don't know if you're going to get paid, or you could cause if it's a big giant number that two guys are playing for, you worry about how that affects a tournament. Let's say you get to a final table and Phil Ivey and Patrick are there, and they're betting they're going to have some last longer.
But that can only hurt you. I mean, that's the thing. Like if it's you, Patrick, and Phil Ivey, and they have a last longer against each other, and you're the third guy, that can only benefit you.
Right, but it affects it. My point is it affects the tournament, which you don't want. Yeah,
I mean, I would want it if I were that third guy, but I could see maybe tournament directors not wanting it or whatever.
It's online only at the moment, so it's online poker at the moment. The wager is a percentage of the buy-in of the MTT up to, I think the max was 50%.
That seems a little high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially the way, if there are integrity issues to get it, is to make it small and kind of not really worth it. But I think the thing with last longers is always that it only can hurt your equity in a tournament. I mean, that's the thing. Like, unless you're betting against a fish, it's usually a bad thing because now you're not able to push a lot of those marginal spots that you probably should push. That's one of those things that when you're short stacked and the other guy's short stacked. If you're short stacked in a regular MTT, you're looking to move in pretty frequently just to be able to take advantage of the fact that you can move in and steal blinds and antes. But if the other guy's slightly shorter than you, then you actually end up both harming yourselves in this MTT. But,
right.
I would recommend against ever kind of betting 50% of the buy-in on a last longer unless you're betting against a fish from a purely strategic point of view.
Because I think it just hurts you.
Yeah.
In case you missed it, a couple NVG threads that I want to talk about, and one of them is started by a guy named Smokey Bacon, and the thread is called "View Poker Sites Should Completely Get Rid of the Ability to Table Select." If you want to read, there's 300 or 400 posts in this thread. If you want to get into this topic a little bit more deeper, then we're going to be able to head on over there and read through the thread. But I wanted to get your take on it, T, and I'll read some of the original post here. Here he starts. For the future sustainability of online poker, to keep recreational players in the game longer, and more importantly, to make it fair and a level playing field for everyone, online poker sites should completely get rid of the ability to table select. Each game should be one giant pool, similar to Zoom games. You're not able to see who's in the pool. Say you want to play in a 6-max cash game, you register to play at a particular stake, and you get randomly seated on a table with 5 other players. They may all be regs, or you may get a couple of fish at your table. You're allowed to change your table X number of times in Y hours, say 3 times in a 6-hour period. But each time you get seated at random, so you may even get seated back at the same table again. This is by far better than the current situation we have, which is frankly one big joke. You have regs all avoiding each other, using dodgy seating scripts, Sharky Strader, and other tools to Jesus seat recreational players and give them a horribly unfair advantage. This is not good for the games at all. We need to get regs playing other regs and basically make the game a level playing field for everyone. In no other competitive environment is there an ability for people to cherry pick who they play against. Imagine Nadal having the ability to pick players outside the top 100 to win a Grand Slam. Now, he kind of loses me at the last with that analogy.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ross, can we get like a drop of me just saying poker is not a sport and then play it at any time or something
Terrence is fired up.
That
was not not the one.
Yeah, he lost me there. That analogy.
Yeah, it's silly because Nadal is also not gambling against people to play tennis, right? Like exactly. he's just getting paid by his sponsors and the tour to show up and beat people. Like that's what.
But the general concept, I actually kind of like.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea on some level if you can tweak it somehow. I think the current situation we have is untenable long term. I think we've talked to stars in the last 6 months or so about what they're doing to get rid of seating scripts, et cetera. But it just seems like it's something that has to kind of come at some point one day for this to thrive.
Right. And you know, the other alternative, of course, to this, well, the one alternative is doing nothing, but is the anonymous tables, which obviously we've talked about have problems, you know, with respect to the fact that the cheaters have been outed thanks to the fact that they weren't able to be anonymous, right. And scrambling them a la Bodog sort of makes it easy for the cheaters to hide. I like the general idea as well. You know, it used to be back in the day. I try to make the brick and mortar comparison. Back in the day, I hated must move games, right? And this is sort of the same idea. This is the equivalent. A must move game in a live casino, for those who don't know, is you've got a main game. That's usually the game that's been started at the end of the day. And as we get into primetime tables, there's 4 or 5 tables. You don't get a choice of when you're forced to leave that table. You have to go into the main game or progressively towards the main game, and you're not allowed to sort of decline that. You're forced. And I hated that back in the day, because a lot of the times you'd be in a good game on like a Friday night or something like that. You've got 4 or 5 donators at your table, and then you get moved to the game where everybody's been been playing tight for 12 hours straight. And that sucks. But on the other hand, PokerStars does have to look at managing the ecology of the poker world now. The question is not whether this is good long term for PokerStars and for the poker economy, because I'm convinced that it is. The question is, will recreational players hate it? Don't they like the idea that they can choose where to play?
Well, and a lot of recreational players don't think of themselves as that.
Right.
They think of themselves as having this incredible table selection brain that they can
probably
go ahead and pick and forcing them. I mean, I think if it was their only choice, that they might not care. Well,
so if we just made everything, let's say that overnight PokerStars tomorrow got rid of every table where you can sit down and made every single table Zoom at every stake and every game. Do you think how much traffic?
Well, that's different than this, I think. So I think
he's not trying to make every table Zoom. Yeah. He's trying to make it Zoom-like, where you just get seated at
you get seated randomly and stay there against those players.
Right.
And if you want to leave, you have X amount of times that you can change tables.
Right.
You can't be doing it all the time,
or you get kicked out of the game for like 10 minutes or something like that. Maybe. Yeah.
Because, there's this discussion about poker being something that after you play against somebody for some length of time, you adapt to their tendencies, and you either take advantage or get taken advantage of, whatever. That's part of the game. If you're constant Zoom all the time, that's not going to happen. If you run into a guy, he's in a different spot every once in a while.
Yeah, there's always this, this guy always opens on the button when I'm the big blind kind of thing. Yeah.
And that's part of the fun of poker, and it certainly is. So this is why I like... I like Zoom. Don't get me wrong, if that's an option.
Mm-hmm. But this is different.
I think this is different, and I like it. And one of the posts I wanted to quickly mention from the thread, a guy said, "Yeah, that would be great. Make the win rates smaller and smaller. Nice idea." And I think this guy's got the wrong idea.
You don't have the right to like a certain win rate. Is sort of the idea.
Well, yeah, and I think your win rate would still. I think the sites would have to look at lowering rake.
Well, we all know what the greatest driver of the win rate is: how many fish are in the game, right? Like that's by far the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like it's mostly not. It's. I mean, some of your win rate right now is coming from table selection, but what is table selection other than getting to play with a higher density of bad players, right? So if you get just kind of organically a higher density of bad players by making them survive a little bit longer, then win rate's not going to be affected nearly as much as you think it is. I mean, everybody is so good at table selecting, as is pointed out in the original post anyway, that there's not that much advantage to be gleaned by it, and some people don't want to use the seating script.
Yeah. What about limiting tables? That's a lot of discussion too, because good players can play 20 tables.
I've never really been a big advocate of that. I mean, I've always thought that, especially from the poker site point of view, like these guys really, we had a lot of conversations about this before. Even at Ultimate Poker, which didn't have that many tables, talk about what's the relationship between these super high volume, high profit players and your ecosystem. And I was always kind of the on the side that these guys who are playing 12 tables are doing a good thing. Some people will argue that they're not. I've never been one of them. I think they keep games going. I think they're
not all great players.
Useful. They're not all great players, yeah, and I've never really felt a reason to limit the number of tables. I don't think that's a good thing for, in general, as long as they're not slowing the game down. And people slowing the game down is a different problem.
So I like the idea. I hope sites, or it would be really good for a site out there who's trying to gain market share to do something innovative like that. I think that would be a good idea.
Because it's less drastic than the Bodog anonymous table model, but it's still saying something that we're doing something out there.
And Stars, for them to just blanketly implement this, they have a giant ecosystem that they have to worry about.
It's such a huge risk.
It's a huge risk. But if you're a startup site, you
don't
don't
not even
that.
a startup, but like a top 10 site, it's like towards the top 10, something like that.
Where you're going to attract a lot of people as well for it. Yeah. In case you missed it, the next thread I want to get to is a thread Lyman, who was on our show recently. He started, and he said, this is the title, financial teams should be required by law to disclose when they're at the same tables. This is stakers, people in the same stable,
people swapping
percentages, anything where they change their best course of action against another player in the game. I thought it was interesting that he said by law, and that's
how are you going to get that to happen? You're going to
well, that's not really. I understand what you're saying, and that was my first reaction, but I'm not sure that that's really the question or the right question to be asking. Like, can we ever police it or anything? We don't. You tend to make laws not with the ability to enforce them all the time, but for hopefully people to.
But we're talking about laws, like the legal
law.
System, like going to, your political representative and asking them to introduce an actual law, or you're talking about poker rules, which are a different thing.
Well, no, I think he mentioned that, and that was his point of view, was to make it a law.
That's not going to happen.
And have a board. I know. I don't think it's going to happen either. But I just thought it was an interesting discussion.
We were so excited. We were so excited when somebody actually went to jail for cheating, like blatantly cheating at poker.
Yeah.
Much less this kind of soft, I have 5% of this guy and I didn't report it.
I'm not sure that the guy's going to go to jail for that.
You're drawing dead on that one.
Well, but even on the level of making it a poker rule. So,
let's talk about the more realistic thing, which is making it a poker rule.
So let's say Matt Savage, the recently completed LAPC, or just completed today, or it's getting completed today. Matt Savage put a rule in for the LAPC. Whenever you have a piece of anybody, be it a tournament, a cash game, whatever, you have to sign up on this board. That's however you want to do it. I don't know.
Right.
So let us know. It's got to be publicly disclosed that you do have a piece of this person, and you're at the same table. If not, you are not going to be welcome back.
How do you do that in practice? Let's say you and I swap 5% before. We're both playing the 10K. Hey, Adam, you want to swap 5%? Okay, sure. We start at different tables, and then what happens? I get a seat card, and I get moved to your table, and we got to both run to the whiteboard. Like, how does this? Or
there's a guy walking around with a whiteboard. Maybe
I think we should. I mean, if you're going to do it, you probably need to disclose it at the start of every tournament, right? You need to kind of say, these are all the people that I'm buying percentages of.
But I think it's important that the table knows.
Yeah.
Rather than Matt Savage or the tournament or whoever knowing, I think it's important to disclose it to the table.
Yeah, so I think that. So what you're saying is,
you can have an app.
I get moved to your table, and I need to call the floor man and say, like, I have 5% of Adam, he has 5% of me, and everybody just FYI.
I've heard Lyman talk about this on his show, and I think he was mostly specifically talking about a very high stakes, well, not
cash game.
Yeah, he was talking about
a
a 25-50 PLO game at the Commerce where he was playing against a few guys who he only found out later that were like swapping 50%.
Yeah,
and that really pissed him off. Because obviously in like a low stakes cash game, like people at a 1-2 game, you'll have like you can have up to like 3 or 4 friends at a table, and it's not really going to affect the game. But in a game where people are playing for bigger money, that's I think more of a concern.
Okay, so we're talking about cash games
and tournaments. I think tournaments is important too.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I think there are different logistics about it, right? Because I think in cash games it's really hard because like one of the things that's nice about poker tournaments and MTTs is that there is a person like the tournament director who can disqualify you from a tournament for breaking the rules, right? Like that's sort of why in some sense poker tournaments have a little bit the rules have a little bit more teeth, and that's why you tend to see cash games are always more informal. Anybody who's played a lot of live cash and a lot of live tournaments knows that tournament rules are always a lot tighter in a wide variety of ways. You get things like there's a bet and a call at the showdown or something like that, and the first guy mucks his hand and the second guy's to show his hand in a tournament. That never happens in a cash game.
Sure.
The sort of kind of stuff that I think it would be really hard to do in a cash game. Again, if this were like a perfect world, maybe that would be fine. But I just the practical feasibility of it is definitely the hard part. It seems a little bit more feasible in MTTs.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Interesting thread. If you want to go have a look at that, it's in NVG. We're going to get through a lot of the, in case you missed it, stuff fairly quick this week. What we decided to do this week was a heavy mailbag show because last week we had some stuff that we didn't get to. And
so we decided to create more of a backlog.
We created more, so we're going to try and get right through it all. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on all this stuff. We're going to get through it as quick as we can. In case you missed it, the American Poker Awards were this week, and they seem to have been a pretty big success. A lot of people
talking about them.
Nobody was kind of rolling their eyes. Everybody thought this was a great event. And I want to eat a little crow here. I think that it's thinking more about it, talking to Alex, I think this is a pretty good thing for poker. Whether or not the categories were specific or silly or whatever, I think the general overall thing that they're doing is a pretty good thing for poker. And it seemed like people were excited about it. They enjoyed it. There was a poker industry conference that went along with it, which seemed to be a pretty big success as well that people enjoyed. By the way, if you want to, it's a lot of discussion about the future of poker, and there's some very smart people were there. If you want to, because if you make it to the thing and you want to hear some of them, Rounders Radio is going to have all the panels. I think they're going to they're going to make a podcast form of all the panels. If you want,
bunch of people tweeting about it too. I don't remember what the hashtag is off the top of my head, but there's a certain hashtag that you could search
Google
for,
it,
where
sure.
you could pretty much see whatever. I think there's about half a dozen people live tweeting it.
Yeah, our boy Brandon Shack Harris won the Breakout Player of the Year. Which was surprising given that he was up against Dan Coleman.
Right. but I mean, that part of it goes to what I guess you've been saying all along, is that the stuff like this is sort of arbitrary.
Yeah.
Like, you've got an award called Breakout Player of the Year, and then you had a guy who won $14 million that nobody ever heard of the year before.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, nothing against Brandon, of course, but it is a lot of the subjectivity and the silliness of it all, which, you've taken issue with and I've taken issue with in the past. But the key thing is you just can't take this stuff too seriously, right? Like that's the most important thing. It's nice. It's nice to be honored. It makes people feel good to be nominated, and there's no harm from it. But it's still a little silly. But it doesn't hurt anybody, so I'm not going to hate on it.
That's right. Yeah. We're not hating anymore. So you mentioned Brandon won it. He just goes to show you that being a good guy goes a long way.
That's clearly it. Like, everybody likes Brandon. Like, he's such a nice guy. He's he's nice to everybody. He's fun to talk to. He's an interesting personality. He does cool stuff. Dan Coleman rubs people the wrong way.
Shots fired.
Indeed.
I mean, that makes.
It helps him a lot.
Yeah, that makes it very clear that that's the reason why he won it, but nothing against him. He obviously had an awesome year, and he's a kick-ass poker player. So.
Did you hear his speech?
I did not.
He got up there and said, "I'm going to try not to fart," was what he kicked things off with, which made me laugh. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I assume he's the only one standing up there. It should be okay.
I think he was with his girlfriend. I don't know. I'm not sure, though.
You can fart in front of your girlfriend. I think that's the rule. You
can?
Well, I mean...
There's a point where it takes a while to get to the... There's like...
Wasn't that this was in Bridesmaids, right? I think
was
there was a scene where the guy was trying to hold in a fart because he never slept with this new girl that he was dating or something like that.
Yeah, there's some sort of time period where it takes a while before you can fart.
Certain level of intimacy. Is that like the relationship is getting serious level, right?
Well, I still won't fart in front of me. She won't. I'll just let him rip, and she won't do it.
Yeah. Well, girls is different.
In case you missed it, the LA Poker Classic, the final table is happening right now. Two-time WPT champion Anthony Zeno, who just took down WPT Fallsview, he's at the final table of the LA Poker Classic main event. He's going for his back-to-back wins. He heads up a table of 6 that include Igor Yaroshevsky and Golevsko, Mike Leah, and our boy Ray Henson went deep. Greg Mueller went deep. We had a lot of friends trying to make that final table. And then one that did, Mike Leah. I hope he takes that sucker down. Good, go Mike, go. My brother ended up chopping a 2K 8 game with one Alan Kessler. But Alan, of course, is got his picture with the trophy. I'm not quite sure how it ended up, but they did a 3-way chop.
So did they actually play it out, or do you know? Did you even know?
I haven't talked to Dan.
Okay,
I haven't. I know they did a 3-way chop with. I think it was Ois Hamed.
Because do you think there's any chance that Alan would negotiate a deal where he gets slightly the worst of it, but gets
I think there's not. I mean, here's a guy. Look, Alan likes.
I know your brother definitely wouldn't do that because your brother has like no ego whatsoever when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I can't conceive of.
You think Alan would? This is a guy.
No, I don't.
I don't think he would.
But he does like. He does. I think he's got a little bit more of an ego than your brother in terms of that he likes the fame a little bit more. I think
that's fair to say about everybody on the planet. My brother,
your brother is not exactly. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Alan wanted to take that down and get the trophy like everybody. Well, most people would.
But congrats to them both.
Indeed, yes. Right. So that's going to take us to the end of this segment. We're going to come back where you've got Jaime Staples, and later in the show we've got James Hartigan.
And a lot of listener feedback, which is awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's going to be fun. So we're going to leave a big segment for segment 3. And the strategy minute this week is going to be delayed continuation betting by Mr. Bartholomew Hansen of CrushLivePoker.com. Head on over there. They are our official strategy partner for the Pokercast. So here's Bart talking about delayed continuation betting. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another 2+2 Strategy Minute brought to you by CrushLivePoker.com. I'm Bart Hansen, and today I want to talk about delayed continuation betting. Now, what delayed continuation betting refers to is actually waiting to make a continuation bet bluff, not on the flop, but usually on the turn. And when you can apply this concept is usually when the board comes out with high cards that should hit your range as the pre-flop raiser. When you're in position, let's say that you raise with a hand like 6-7 suited and the blind calls. And let's say the board comes out like ace, king, queen. Well, that's obviously, a flop that's going to hit your range as the pre-flop raiser. However, it's either going to hit your opponent or miss him. So let's say that you bet the flop and he folds. Okay, fine. But let's say that you bet the flop and your opponent calls. You can actually risk less by checking back on the flop and gaining the strength information from your opponent's hand by his turn play. Because if he has a hand, say, like pocket fives, on the flop, if you bet, he's going to fold. But on the turn, he's going to check to you. You can bet, and he'll just fold. So you see that you actually risk less money by making a delayed continuation bet on certain boards in certain situations. Now let's get back to the Pokercast.
Hey, poker fans, don't forget about the 2plus2.com digital magazine. Each month, a wide array of poker professionals and media write fascinating articles about the game you love. Want to learn about big blind versus small blind hand ranges? How about optimal Jeopardy daily double strategy? Topics like those and many others are covered every month. Head on over to 2plus2.com to see what the magazine has to offer this month.
6 max zoom 500, 230 big blinds deep. MP opens to 10 and I3 bet 36 on the button with kings. He 4 bets small to 63 and I5 bet 143 and flat his $222 6 bet. Pot is 450 with 1000 behind. He bets 555 on the 10-7-3 rainbow flop. And I think, too bad I'm not capable of folding in these spots as I shove. Only to see him turn over ace-10 after calling. I hold for 500 big blind pot.
Team Pro Online's Mikhail Inasai-Shalamov is a Supernova Elite VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
This week on Crush Live Call-Ins. I don't think I would check it back. I mean, you could bet and then evaluate the end too. Bet and evaluate the river because, I mean, are you checking it back to fold the river if he bets? Remember, he still does have some combo draws in his range, like nut flush draws and stuff like that. I mean, if you were really scared, you could bet and take a showdown at the end. But, if you look at the combo work, I mean, there are 9 combos of aces that he can have. And if you put in, like, sometimes the king queens, there are definitely enough hands with ace king and king queen and sometimes king jack and draws for you to be ahead here. Join me every Sunday at 4:45 Pacific time to have your live no limit cash game hands analyzed, all for free, by heading over to crushlivepoker.com/radio or going to the Crush Live Poker Twitch channel.
Welcome back to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. T, we were talking about Twitch.
We are always talking about Twitch, it seems, these days.
It's the topic du jour. Twitch is awesome. One of the guys that makes it awesome, who has gotten into this at an early start, is our guest today. He's from Lethbridge, Alberta, so he's a good Canadian kid. That's what drop we need, actually, is the
Don Cherry.
Don Cherry saying good Canadian kid.
I've got Phil Ivey.
He's Canadian.
That's good.
Relevant.
Yeah. It is. This is, of course, I'm talking about Jaime Staples. Welcome to the Pokercast, Jaime.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for coming on. You just finished up a session today. How did it go?
Yeah, it just got done. Nothing too crazy. We were down a little bit on the day, but we gave it some runs. Built up some stacks. So.
You mentioned you're down a little bit. It's interesting because you have a counter on your. There's like a rolling screen of your last cash, your daily total. Was that something that you thought of right away, or was that your listeners saying, "Hey, I want to see that"?
Right. Yeah. So it was a very common question, like, how much did you win yesterday, or were you up? Like, how did yesterday go? And we still get it maybe 50 times a day on the stream, but instead of having to answer that, we just figured throw it up on the screen. It's kind of fun. It's scrolling. It looks cool. So yeah, it took a while, but eventually we added it, and it seems to be a hit. So yeah.
I mentioned you were one of the first guys in here. Give us an idea when you started out, and what was in your head. What were you trying to accomplish when you kicked this thing off?
Right, yeah. So I started 4 months ago, just a little bit over 4 months ago.
That's forever ago in Twitch.
I know. I got super lucky. Like, the timing was freaky almost. I just dropped out of school. I was ready to really give poker a shot. And I saw Jay Carver as well as Set Over Set Poker, two streamers. Of course, Jay Carver is pretty popular. I'm sure you guys have heard.
Yes.
I saw his stream and I was like, this is kind of cool. Maybe I should do this. I saw a rum cake in the forums and sent him a message and kind of was up and going. So super lucky to pick up the opportunity right when I had the time, essentially.
What were you trying to call? Like, what was your goal? Were you just like, I'm going to do this and take whatever form that it becomes? Like, how did you approach it?
Right. I wasn't super clear on exactly what I wanted to do with it at the start because I didn't know anything about Twitch, really. So I just fired it up and I was like, okay, I'll stream my tournaments, talk to some people. This will be fun, right? Add some variety to the day. As things progressed, it became a little bit more clear what people liked watching, and sort of I decided to grow a bit of a community and try and tell the story of myself trying to make it to the top of the game, being an average professional, making average money, trying to get to where I wanted to get to. And so, yeah.
How many viewers did you get to start? What do you attribute your growth to? Was it the 2+2 banner on the side? Was it internal Twitch advertising? What do you think made you popular?
That's a tough question. I think there's a lot of things, and if there was like a formula, maybe I would grow even faster, right? So I'm always considering that question. Definitely a lot of it is Twitch. Getting the front page on Twitch, if you can achieve that, gives you tons and tons of views. I remember one day I had about 40,000 unique views in an hour on the front page. That's like massive exposure, right?
Did you feel like that you had to be a little bit different on that day, or a little bit special? You knew you were going to get a lot of non-poker players at that point, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you get more of the questions like which card beats what and what are you playing? Is this real money? Those kind of questions. And so it's like it's a more newbie focused hour, right? More people just getting into poker is really the focus. So that was a big part, and I think the other part was consistency. When the community was so new, people would show up some days and there just wouldn't be people streaming with a high quality stream or with commentary or with a webcam. So me being there at least 5 days a week, I think helped in that I was always going to be there, right? So I think that really was a big part of my growth early on.
You mentioned beginner heavy stream. That's interesting, and I wonder if, as a advanced player like yourself, because you're interacting with all these people, does it give you sort of a new viewpoint on people that are new, like the way they think, and I mean, obviously you've run into friends and everything that are asking you, what beats what, but has it given you any kind of change in how you look at beginning players?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you meet these people that haven't experienced the ups and the downs before, right? So it's like this whole new experience getting bad beats and hearing bad beats in the chat and like, hey, I got 11th in the Big 880 yesterday. It was so sick, like this much money up top. Just feeling that again and remembering what it was like to make those first deep runs and have that first experience with poker. It's really reignited a passion in me, and I realize, I guess, how lucky I am to be playing 5 years later after I first started.
That real-time interaction really is sort of the killer app of Twitch, so to speak. I mean, this is the big thing, that people can watch you and throw questions at you, and you can answer them in real time. I mean, I think that's the real important aspect of this. Has it always been positive, and are you enjoying that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's some difficulty sometimes. Of course, it's open chat, so you can get all sorts of questions and all sorts of people, and sometimes it can be difficult, sure. But the real-time viewing, the real-time chat, just is this experience that can't really be felt anywhere else, I guess. I was talking to a friend actually the other day. I was saying, imagine a UFC fight with chat on the side. Terrence, I don't know if you could tune in on that, but could you just imagine the insanity that would go along with people actually being able to shape the show in a way by chatting and adding to it? I think it's really cool. Yeah, my favorite part about it, no doubt.
Yeah, there's definitely, I've seen YouTube comments on the thing, which is sort of the closest thing on YouTube stream. Unfortunately, the demographic that's the Venn diagram of people watching the UFC and people posting YouTube comments is often not the most insightful, right, to say the least. But I would suggest that your audience is a little bit more savvy.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at if people are choosing a game to play on Twitch and they're choosing a less visual game like poker, one that involves thinking and stuff, I think it grows a slightly more mature and just chilled out audience for sure. So it's not as rough as that, but yeah.
That being said, have you ever had trolls or people that you had to deal with, or people just saying offensive things, and sort of what's your channel policy towards that sort of disruptive behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't really get away from it. It's going to happen to every channel, and I guess the approach is you can't really be antagonistic. Like, you can ban people, but they'll come back. They'll cause you a lot of trouble. So in general, I try and be very accepting, and I guess just own up to the criticism sometimes and be like, hey, this, I'm not good at that. Yeah, I'm going to improve, or, you're right. Maybe I could improve this. I try and get them on my side. But it definitely does happen to every streamer, and talking to some of them, it's like graduation when you go through that first big attack where, you're just beaten down, and then you come through the other side a little bloodied up, but ready to go back to war,
How does playing live affect the way that you play? Like, have you ever been afraid to make a move in fear of people seeing you do something stupid in the stream?
Yeah, that's a battle for sure. I've been studying a lot of reshoving ranges and found some spots where, like, okay, I got to shove any two here with 18 bigs against this, this razor. And I'm just like, the chat is going to lose it. Like, they are going to hate this, and I'm going to get berated for hours. So yeah, that's difficult. But I think in general, having the chat there keeps you focused on the game, keeps you thinking about poker. So
that's a teaching point too, though, right? I mean, you can almost, the thing I used to do playing live is pretend to look at my cards and then shove, but you can cover them with your hand. And this is a shove any 2 spot. Have fun with it that way.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
We even had, I think someone post, you mentioned the suggest a guest thread, and somebody said, you have to ask Jaime about shoving really late in tournaments, which is always one of those things, because I know that, a lot of the times if you play, a live MTT or even an online MTT, and you just kind of tell somebody else who plays poker, maybe not at a high level, they'll often be really in disbelief at that spot. Like, did you really need to get it in with ace-9 there, or that kind of thing? Yeah. And obviously, this person mentions that your viewers kind of lose their shit when that happens.
Well, especially if you've got new players, it's like, why are you going in with a jack and a 4? I can just see it. Talk about your Twitch window, Jaime, and how you approach. Because, like you said, this needs to be high quality. People need to be engaged by it. But you also have to balance this beginners type aspect to have, your HUD and what you want to be showing everybody. What's your approach there?
Right. So I think there's a lot of things that work. The one that I chose, because, I'm not in a position where I can't play poker. It's still my main source of income. So I figured 4 tables on the screen was good, and then I'd just play 8 tables and drag tables in as I busted. So that's the main focus, is the 4 tables. Off to the side, because we're on delay, 3.5 minutes, just so people can't see my cards, obviously. We have the chat so that people watching sort of know what questions I'm referencing and stuff like that.
Sure.
There's a webcam, which I think is very important to have. Not very many people have been successful without a webcam on Twitch.
What do you think that is? Because is it just facial expressions, or?
Yeah, I think there's so many people that could play poker without a webcam. It's just not that interesting. If you have a webcam and commentary, it adds a human side to playing, I think. So, yeah, I mean, there is a way to get there. There's some big other game streamers that don't use a webcam, but it's very rare, I think.
It must just be one of those things where if you don't see somebody's face or you don't know what their face looks like, you have a trouble connecting with them in some sense.
Which probably means we should be doing a video version of this podcast.
Yeah, well.
Right. I would definitely tune in live streaming.
I mean, Ross, you get requests all the time for people asking us to Twitch this. It's just such a logistical difficulty to sort of do all this and all the stuff.
Ross is going to get around to it. Don't get off his case.
It's not impossible.
Jaime, I was watching today, 17,000 subscribers or followers, over 1.1 million views, 766 people today were watching an empty chair, Jaime.
Yeah. Yeah. During the breaks, there's sort of a joke. I have this picture behind me that looks like a seahorse, so it's like a seahorse break. Everyone spams it in the chat. Looking for that chair sponsorship, by the way. There's lots of chairs. Yeah, I don't even know how to conceptualize really the amount of people that are watching poker on Twitch. Not even just my stream, but other streams. I know Jason Somerville today. He had 5,000 people like all day.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And you just think of a stadium. It's unbelievable how big of an audience that is. So I try not to think about it too much and just do my best, play my best, and go from there.
Being a Canadian, I mentioned you're in Lethbridge. You have your choice of sites. I saw that you do play America's Card Room. Obviously, Stars of Full Tilt are going to be part of your rotation. What other sites are you at, and how does that go on?
I play 6 sites right now. I'm looking to add more. Actually, as a tournament player, I kind of like the variety of being able to pick and choose, the highest promoted, the best tournaments on each site every day. So I obviously have Stars Full Tilt, 888, Party Poker, America's Card Room, and Bodog. So 2 U.S.-facing sites, which people really like to watch. If they're from the U.S., that's my biggest audience. And then the other big 4, I guess I would say now. So...
Do you get lots of data on where your guys are from Twitch? Are they giving you like a country breakdown and everything?
That's pretty much it that I've found. I haven't dug into it too much. But from unique views, you can tell the geolocation, the country. Yeah, so that's really all I know.
I mentioned your HUD. You must have to explain every day to a bunch of new players exactly what some of those stats are.
Right, yeah. It's actually only sponsor I have of the stream right now is a HUD company called Javaro. So that's kind of helpful because they have a free HUD and I get to give it to users and talk about it. So that's kind of cool. And then on the other sites, I'm using Poker Tracker. Definitely the most common question is, what are those little numbers? What do they mean?
Yeah.
And you sort of just develop a script over time of the response, like VPIP, pre-flop raise.
Yeah.
You know, how many hands you're playing pre-flop, how many you're raising. You can use those numbers to blah, 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 blah. Right.
Jamie, do you think there's any danger that people who obviously aren't exposed to HUDs, once they realize what it is, we talk a lot on this show and generally in the poker community that a lot of recreational players might be intimidated by if they only knew kind of how much information professional players had. Do you ever see that as a concern that you're sort of exposing this out there for players who might not necessarily have been aware that things like Poker Tracker exist?
I think it could be a concern. I take the stance that the people that watch the stream kind of like the depth that poker has. I think they like that. So I try and keep it fun and exciting and explain about the HUD. And some people definitely are intimidated. But in general, I like to show the depth that goes into decision making and all the information we use. And I think actually people kind of enjoy the idea that it isn't just a gamble, a flip of the coin. You get dealt cards and go with it. There's a lot of thinking that is involved. So there's definitely two sides to that coin. And as I was mentioning, the HUD company I'm partnered with, it's actually a free HUD for 3 stats. So that's been a great partnership in that a lot of people have been able to use that HUD, and we're able to talk about it sort of without the barrier of entry, I guess.
Do you include it in a lot of your discussion with talking about certain decisions? Oh, this guy's got a folded 3-bet. That kind. I mean, do you go into pretty detailed stuff?
It's a balance. I do some strategy talk about why I'm doing what I'm doing. A lot of it is user feedback, though. Specific questions, and then I respond to that. And playing tournaments, a lot of it is short stack. I'm shoving here because we're this deep. So there is some discussion, absolutely, but you have to tailor it, I think, to the main demographic that's watching, and that's going to go right over their head. So don't get too deep on the stream.
Being an MTT guy, I guess going on deep runs has got to be a lot of fun. With imagine your viewer count goes sky high when you get deep. People tweeting it, etc. Yeah,
there's no feeling like it. It's pretty crazy. My cheeks get all red and excited. They actually call me tomato face when I go deep in a tournament. I was playing the big 109 one day, and I had Isildur on my left. We're down to 2 tables. So the chat, and I got front page, actually, because someone on Twitch saw it. So we rocketed up to 7,000 people at one point. And awesome. It's sort of like a daze. There's no better feeling in the world. And I was actually thinking, like, man, maybe I have to fold some hands because of the equity of having 7,000 people watching. Like, that's a lot of exposure. Maybe I should fold that ace-5 instead of shipping it in. So,
You're lucky you live in the time of, or you're in the time of synchronized tournament breaks. Back in the day, we have to rock a pee bottle. I guess you couldn't really do that on a live stream.
You could. It just depends on what your webcam's pointed at.
That's true, yeah. You could just kind of be holding the bottle underneath the table, and that'd be funny.
Yeah.
Some good in-stream moments. Have you had some funny things go on?
There's been some pretty generic craziness, I guess. I accidentally folded aces yesterday pre-flop. So that was quite a thing.
Did you do that just for the viewers?
Come on.
No.
That's GTO.
I'm feeling the pain on that one still. I definitely didn't do it for them. So we took down the big 75 on stream, and that was pretty crazy. A pretty epic back and forth heads up match. Included some chair spins and some fist pumps. So
chair spins.
Those are the ones that stand out to me as special moments, I guess.
Jamie, I'm curious about donations on Twitch.
Yeah.
How does that work, and has it been a beneficial thing? Like, have you actually gotten like a serious donation?
Yeah, so it's definitely a big thing on Twitch, and it has transferred over into the poker world. You see gamers that don't have any other source of income, it's just gaming. They make tons of money from donations, thousands a day sometimes.
Wow.
In poker, it's not really like that yet. But But there's definitely a lot of people that want to support the stream and donate money. It's just through PayPal. They can have a message that pops up on screen. I have someone that reads out the message for them, like a robot voice. It's really it's a freemium model of entertainment, and for poker it can be strategy as well. So people, I guess, choose what they feel it's worth, and if they think it's worth money, they'll donate to the stream, and then that helps me improve my setup, my life, play higher stakes, stuff like that. So it definitely is a big part of the income that can come from Twitch is donations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you also give them, I believe you give them access to a couple months where you save them and they could watch, the last couple months worth of streams, right?
Yeah, that's the subscriber program, which actually goes through Twitch. Donations you can set up on your own. But for $4.99 a month, you can subscribe to your favorite channels, and it keeps up to 2 months of previous recordings, so you can watch back, a special stream or something if you missed it, and you can also highlight special tournaments. So I have all my final tables highlighted, and hopefully I'll build up a big database where it's a usable thing for people as a strategy source for how to play final tables and deep runs and stuff like that. So yeah, that's like the subscriber program that goes through Twitch. It's actually separate from the donations, but yeah.
As an MTT guy, we've got the World Series of Poker coming up. You going to head down there?
I'm definitely going to go. I don't think I'm going to go for the whole series because I just feel this pressure to stream with it being so new. I want to make sure I keep putting in the time. So I think I'm going to be there for the opening event and hopefully meet a bunch of people.
You can still stream WSOP.com, I guess. They don't have nearly as many MTTs, but you could stream the WSOP.com MTTs.
And wear a GoPro.
Yes.
Exactly. In the Rio. I don't know if ESPN would be happy with that.
Could you stream America's Card Room and Bodog, or would that be a bad thing?
You could do that, but
probably not Bodog, right? Or Bovada?
Bovada. Do they?
I think I'm going to play. I'm going to stream the online event.
Yeah.
The 1K WSOP online. That's going to be. I mean, there's got to be probably 30 or 40 people streaming that event.
Yeah.
It's going to be a pretty crazy day.
Wouldn't that be great if you ended up making the final table of that thing and or the heads up, I guess, portion of that thing?
That would be crazy.
Then you would have to stream the rest of the GoPro. I guess WSOP would do that part for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be pretty nice.
We do a little bit of a quiz segment with a lot of our guests. Now, you up for that?
I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
You're nervous? We tailored 4 questions for you. I know you're a philosophy guy. You live in Lethbridge, so that's what I had to work with. Terrence, you going to set a line?
All right. Well,
I'll set the line. The line. I'm going to set the line at 3.
3. You were pretty sure about that. I have a question about number 3 on your list there. Does that have to be in order?
Yes.
Okay. So that shades me towards the under, because I was going to take over if you said 2.5, but I'm going to have to go with under just because that third one looks tricky.
All right, Jamie, we're gambling real dollars on this, $20 on each one, so there's pressure here. The first question, name 3 Lethbridge Hurricanes to go on to the NHL.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Boychuk is 1.
Seabrook.
2.
And
3 was a good number to ask.
I went to high school with him. I can't remember his name.
Jeez.
Of course you did. You live in Lethbridge. How many high schools?
Sabisa.
Who? Who?
Okay, he wasn't from there, actually. Yeah, that's all I have. I only have 2, I'm sorry.
All right, 2. You missed Christopher T. Oh, no, Sabisa. You said Spisa, didn't you?
Sabisa, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
But he changed his mind.
But he said no. I don't know. We need a ruling on that.
Ross, you're independent. He said Spisa, and then took it back.
He said the name before he took it back. So
we're counting it?
I would say so.
Yeah! You got that one right. All right, you're 1 for 1.
I'll run through the record.
That's going to go to.
I think I'm drawing. You're to a chop. I'm drawing to a chop. I think at least.
What philosopher is credited with creating the philosophical proposition? I think, therefore, I am.
I should definitely know this, considering I took philosophy.
This was one of the ones I was giving him credit for, just off the top.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Guys, I took a very liberal arts sort of education. I wasn't very specialized. I guess I'll go with Socrates. Is that right?
It is René Descartes.
Descartes. Okay.
You got to run the table now.
Now you're drawing to a trap.
I'm drawing to a trap. Name the 4 cities in Alberta in order by population. The 4 biggest cities in Alberta by population.
Oh, dang. Edmonton, Calgary is a close one. I think I'll go Edmonton. I'm getting reads on the sounds here. I'm going to stick with you, though. Edmonton, Calgary.
Calgary's the biggest one.
Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Lethbridge.
I
think I lose.
Let's see if he can rescue himself as a little dignity. Jamie, what big internet company is the owner of Twitch TV?
Amazon.
Yes. 2 for 4.
There we go. I'll take it.
That's correct.
I'm used to losing like 80% of my tournaments. That's a victory.
That's a good average, right? Anyway, Jamie, I appreciate your time so much. Thanks a lot. Continued success with your Twitch channel. Hope everything goes well, and I'll be tuning in myself.
Thanks, guys. It's been an honor. Really love the show, and talk to you again sometime.
There is Mr. Jaime Staples. Man, this guy's ripping it up on Twitch.
Yeah.
Doing a great job.
People call Jason Somerville sort of like the new Daniel Negreanu. Maybe Jaime Staples will be the new Jason Somerville over time. It's kind of like a prospect.
Somerville's legitimately a protege of Negreanu, though.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's true.
But Jamie just told us he got into it because of Jason. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Interesting. It'll be.
They're all blonde.
They are.
Ooh.
We'll see where it goes. It's one of these evolving sort of.
Daniel needs to have hair to qualify as blonde. Oh,
yes, hair.
Yeah. Oh yeah, doesn't he dye it blonde
sometimes?
Frosted tips.
This is getting into territory where we're going to regret what we say. I think
hair
quickly.
GTO.
Yeah. So I want to do something this week. First of all, we're going to do the Pokerstars Invitational now, a little bit out of order, but for those, it'll help those listeners who actually listen to the show rather than just kind of try and find the.
If you skip to the end this week, you are not getting the password.
One of our longtime listeners, a man named Dennis Underwood, he goes by the handle Canadian Golfer 88 on 2+2. He lost his father recently, and a terrible thing, obviously. One of the things they had a connection with was poker. And each week they played the Pokercast Invitational together, and it kind of bonded them. It's great that this show could have some small part in their relationship. So in Earl Underwood's memory, we're going to go with the format this week that he loved best: full ring, no limit hold'em, and the password is going to be Earl, EARL, his name. Rest in peace, sir. And now we're going to get to 140 or less.
140 characters. That's it. I love hashtags. I love all of them.
Terrence Chan
needs more than 140 characters to express itself.
140 or less.
First tweet this week is Alan Barry. He makes a lot of appearances in 140 or less. If I won the lottery, I'd hire 20 to 30 people to dress up and look exactly like Alan Kessler and rail him and follow him around the entire World Series of Poker.
Why? I mean, why?
But imagine the scene. It would be very
I'm just
funny.
not sure your funny ROI was up, because I mean, what does that cost? Like, I feel like you could do more things for the money. But
he won. Oh.
Nevertheless, it's not my money, so I won't tell him how to spend it.
You'll just laugh at what he does.
Yeah.
That would be good.
You also don't need to win the lottery.
Presumably, Robert Varconi would be one of the people that he dressed up.
Yeah,
because there's not a lot of dressing
happening. That's already happening
involved. Jimmy Fricky, I just called, quote, that 2+2 guy. Sniff, my whole life has been leading up to this moment. Chada comped my meal tonight. Hashtag rakeback. Chada, of course, one of his favorite restaurants in Las Vegas. I actually went there with him. It's fantastic.
So he's been upgraded to freaking a weird dude to that 2+2 guy.
The 2+2 guy. I'm pretty sure it's an upgrade.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Yeah. And he the food rakeback is great because he brings a lot of people. A lot of people.
He's
are
got a
always
food
asking.
blog out there. I didn't know that. I think he just started it very recently. But Gobbo's got a Vegas food blog.
And we're going to get to some some prepping for the World Series of Poker. Food, maybe we should do food.
We do a food show?
Food show with Gabo. I think he might be perfect for that because he knows exactly where he knows the best places in town.
Yeah, long time, not lifelong, foodie. But long time Vegas resident, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week we're going to do accommodation, but that's a good idea. I think maybe we'll ask Jimmy if he wants to come on and talk about some of the places because if you want to know somewhere, a good restaurant, ask Jimmy. He's very good with that. He knows what he's talking about. The last one, Mike McDonald, Timex, of course. Lost my last trivia crack game for picking D. What's the best poker hand? A, 2 pair. B, royal flush. C, quads. D, it depends on the game.
Of course, if you're listening to this show, you know that is actually the correct answer. We do trivia a lot all the time, but I think that's not true.
That's hilarious. That wrong.
Well, but he didn't get it wrong. But
it's the worst hand in some games.
He clearly got, exactly. He clearly got it right. That it depends whether you're playing low ball or not. I think he has a legitimate. Can you imagine? I would be that guy at the bar going like, no, like,
it's moops.
Yeah, exactly.
Good fun. So that's 140 or less for the week. Should we do some? Oh, you know what I want to do before we get to a piece of viewer mail? We talked about this before. The thread, of course, in our forum is where in the world are you listening from? And it's slowed down a bit, I think, because a lot of people had come in and posted, and we appreciate every one of them. But what we were going to do is give some shout-outs to some people who came in. One of them this week is Smith Boo from Milton Keynes, England. He forces his wife to listen to the show when they're on long drives. Poor woman. He also says he's rubbish at poker. So thanks for posting in our thread. Next one was Internet Points from L.A. Love the show. T-Chan is a really good co-host.
I like this guy.
I like the way he uses critical thinking skills to answer all of Adam's silly hypotheticals.
Oh, he thinks you're silly. How do you
he thinks I come up with dumb stuff, which I probably do. Internet Points, thanks so much for posting. Fitzmoney100. What's up, 2+2? Chagrin Falls, Ohio, USA here, just outside of Cleveland. I listen to the podcast normally when I'm cleaning the house. Lol, yes, when I'm cleaning the house. Put on the Bose headphones and off we go.
He doesn't make his wife listen to it. He's putting on the headphones.
The 3 hours is perfect. The man of the house is the cleaner of the house. And if a room needs painted, the wife steps out and does it. That's how we roll. I love it. That's exactly. I'm the word.
No gender stereotypes around here. We're very progressive. We're a progressive Pokercast.
The funny thing he probably doesn't know how famous his town is in Canada.
Really? I don't know why.
Yeah, because you're not a fan of the band. But tragically, you have a song called Chagrin Falls, Ohio, or Chagrin Falls.
Okay.
And it's obviously one of the most popular bands.
I would think he probably knows that. I mean, if a band has
a song, to know if he knows that. If he knows,
if a band has a song named after your town and you're from some small town, I think that's probably.
You think he knows?
It's probably in the Wikipedia entry for Chagrin Falls, Ohio. I would bet.
I'll bet you. I think I posted in response the video to his thread, but I wonder if before I did that, if he knew about the song. I'd be interested to know that. So that is where are you listening from shout-outs for the week. We're going to get into Mailbag.
Lots of it. And Twitter and the forums and all the ways that you can access us. So, yeah.
And now.
That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Malcolm? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
Mailbag.
Love it. Love it.
I watched 2 seasons of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia recently. Such a good show.
Hey, Pokercast. It's going to be my first time in World Series of Poker this year. At the World Series of Poker this year. I was thinking of going 4 to 5 days. And I would love to have some help on how I can experience it with about $2,500 after flights to play poker with accommodations food. Is this enough to get the full experience? As of now, my plan was to play in the daily deep stacks and 1-2 no limit hold'em, possibly a little 2-5. Also, if I hit any of the tourneys or did well in cash games, I would look into playing a 1K. Thanks for any advice from Scott. So this is where I wanted to kind of, we've done our upcoming World Series of Poker, or different aspects of the World Series. We're going to talk about, of course, with Chris Danek, we talked about one-table satellites. So what I want to do today is accommodation. This is part of what Scott was talking about.
Yeah.
We'll get to food maybe in another show, because that's a different topic altogether.
Yeah.
But accommodation I want to talk about. And I think... you've got to kind of you got to break down into budget levels when you're talking about accommodation.
Well, of course.
Are you a baller? Are you going to go stay at the Wynn, the Bellagio? Does it matter? Not, if you want to be comfortable.
Scott Wilson's been on this show. We know who you're talking about.
Are you Scott Wilson? Put it that generally, yes. But not everybody who's going to the World Series, of course, can do that. But there's ways to get some of the places cheaper. If you play a little bit in the pit, whatever you want to do. We'll talk about that as well.
For sure.
So if people are going for long stretches, let's say they're going for
the whole duration.
Let's start with the duration.
6 or 7 weeks.
6 or 7 weeks. You've got the high end. You've got Airbnb, where you can find
Airbnb. You can find cheap places, but
I've also got Airbnb budget as well.
But you can definitely get like an 8-bedroom house, like
Panorama Towers if you want to stay there.
Panorama specifically, no, because I'm pretty sure that Panorama. I used to live at Panorama, has a very strict short-term rental policy. So there may be places you find, but I would actually be really careful about that, because from my time living in Panorama, I seem to recall that they're pretty not happy about stuff like that.
Okay.
But definitely there are some very baller houses. There might be some other high-rise complexes that aren't as strict that you can't get into. But I've always spent time in houses with my friends. I think people who know my background know the kind of people I hang out with is, we try to get 6, 7, 8 poker players in one house, and might be a house that's anywhere from $600 to $800 a night, sometimes even more, if you're looking for all night stuff. So one of the nice things about finding a house on Airbnb or vrbo.com is another one, is that if you can share it with friends, or if you're just really wealthy and you want to do it yourself, is you get the swimming pool, you get the pool tables, you get the big screen TV and the huge kitchen, and have people come over and cook for you or whatever, and all the barbecue and all that kind of stuff. It's an awesome, great experience, and probably, even though we're talking about it as a baller option, is way cheaper than anywhere else in North America, right? Like, because if you're talking about what something like a couple thousands of dollars a month in rent gets you, it gets you a lot more in Vegas than it does in most American cities.
And you could probably go all kinds of different tiers, as far as money goes on that. You can have that baller house, or you can also have a 2-bedroom townhouse somewhere, split with a guy for $89 a night or something, right? I mean, there's different ways to do it.
I think I've always thought that if you're staying for the duration, probably renting a car and going there is the way to go. Now, there are people, like you said, who just stay in a hotel the entire time. I guess if you like having your towels changed every day and all that kind of stuff, and that's important to you, then that makes sense.
When I can't imagine why it would be. I mean, I've done both, and having my towels changed every day is
not high on the utility list. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I like having groceries, cooking my own food, getting to plop down on the couch and fall asleep on the couch, or go out to take a swim in the pool. Obviously, hotels have pools, but it's nice to have just kind of your own private pool that's in your backyard.
But the biggest thing for me of not staying in a casino is not having to walk through a casino.
The cigarette smoke and the slot machine, because that slot machine sound, you think we're joking, but it'll stay in your head. If you spend 45 consecutive days hearing ding 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 ding, it's hard to stop hearing it when you go home.
Oh,
it's really hard to stop hearing it.
I stayed in the Orleans 1 year for 40 straight days.
Yeah, that's a super popular one. The Orleans for kind of like on the mid end.
Yeah,
and obviously Gold Coast across the street is probably the number one if you're trying to save money but go to the World Series place, because it's literally across the street from the
It's literally across the street. It's very cheap.
Yeah.
And as far as options go for budget, I think that's my number one recommendation.
Right.
I think the Gold Coast, if you move around and find one of the newer, well-done rooms, the redone, redesigned, whatever you call it, rooms, whereas I think there's a pretty wide range on what you're going to get stuck with in the Gold Coast. But if you can get a good room, for like $39 a night or whatever it ends up being.
It's hard to be much cheaper than that.
It's hard. And the rooms are decent.
And then you don't need to rent a car too, which is nice.
Exactly. You're right across the street. Yeah. So the Orleans is a little bit farther, although
you would need a car for
you would need
Orleans,
a car because it's pretty hot. 40 some odd degrees.
Even if it weren't hot, it'd still be a few miles. Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's not cheap. It's not as cheap as the Gold Coast. It's usually
a little bit nicer.
$69, $70 a night, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's going to cost you. But the place that I always stay And because I'm not down there for long periods anymore, what I do is, and what MJ and I have done in the past is gone down. We've stayed at Palm's place.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty baller, I think. I always go over to your place. I always think it's pretty baller.
And it's not that expensive. It's pretty popular amongst poker players. Here's why. It's right across the street from the Rio.
Yeah.
We mentioned
it's a kitty corner, I guess, about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's
still a little bit of a
10-minute walk.
When it's 40 degrees outside, it's still not that super pleasant when it's like 45 degrees.
Yeah,
or whatever.
But you need to get your legs moving. It's not a big deal to walk. You definitely don't want to drive.
Right.
I mean, it's
it'll take you longer driving than walking.
Although I have driven a lot, so
ideally there would be like some sort of shuttle that would connect the two, but obviously they're owned by different properties.
Yeah. But you don't have to walk through a casino. It's a separate from the Palms casino. It's got its own separate swimming pool, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It's got a great workout facility that's included with your daily whatever charge is called. It's got your own kitchen, your own washer and dryer. It's a self-contained suite. They're fantastic.
It's got go-karts across the street.
It does have go-karts right across the street, which is quite nice. But
that doesn't sound like something you want to do in 45-degree other.
No, it's indoor. It's indoor.
Oh,
it's indoor. It's actually very fun. It's I can't remember the name of it, but it's literally across
pole position.
Pole position. There you go.
Yeah. You can get those for about $99 a night for the basic ones, and then when you get there. You can usually upgrade to the big one-bedroom suites that we end up with for another $50 a night.
Okay.
So if you're staying for a week, it's $1,000 or something like that, maybe $1,100, whatever.
Is it hard to get it for the main event? Like if people are listening to the show now, is that something they think?
Well, they can book now.
Yeah.
For the $99, and then when you if you try and book the one-bedrooms now, you're going to have to pay
extra,
$250,
right?
whatever.
So if you're willing to maybe get the lower end one with the option, maybe, and you're willing to have
I've never not had a guy.
Right.
So that would tell you
gamble a little bit.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
These are self-contained owns. The owners own these places, and they're not in Vegas in July.
Right.
I mean, that's just not when they're there.
Right.
After the July 4th goes or before the July 4th, it's too hot for people that are, because they're casual. They don't live there full time.
Right. Most people who own in Vegas don't live full time, especially the nicer places.
So those things are pretty empty during the summer. I would suggest the Palms Place. But so that's higher end, though, I think. Medium, we talked about it. The Rio is also somewhere where we should talk about, I think. Staying at the Rio is popular for poker players. You don't have to leave the place. Whether that's good or bad, you could probably talk about as well. I think you need to kind of get out rather than staying in the Rio the entire time.
I've always thought the rooms are a little bit dated as well. They're certainly not new. They finally got flat screens like 2 years ago.
Yeah, they had the big
CRT. You're trying to watch a basketball game or whatever
pull
it
this
is.
500-pound TV out.
Exactly. So I thought that was a bit brutal. Yeah, Bill Chen usually stays at the Rio. Even we often rent a house, but he often has a room at the Rio because he just wants to be
dinner breaks.
Dinner break, and also he might play open face Chinese till 5 a.m, and then he doesn't want to do that drive home and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people definitely stay at the Rio during the nation. It's obviously most popular during the main, and you probably get the most value out of staying there during the main because
that's when you need
when you really need it. The really long days. If you're going to day 3, 4, 5, etc., then you're not getting any rest days off. You're not getting any days off because obviously you're playing back to back to back. So that's definitely the time when you want to look in the Rio. At the other hand, usually it's actually started to get quite vacant by then, because so many people bust out on day 1 or 2. It's actually not very hard at all to get a room on day 3 or 4 of the Rio. So if you can do it, if you're, say, going to play for the main event, I would kind of recommend that you get somewhere else for the first couple of days if you don't mind doing that. And then if you happen to run well enough to make it to day 3, so at the end of day 3, after you bag and tag your ships, you probably want to make a reservation at the Rio and just hope you go deep.
And if you have any kind of status with total rewards,
yes,
you're going to get a
it
real
varies
good deal.
a lot. Yeah, so that's the other good thing that we should mention is that the rate that you get will depend a lot on your Caesars Total Rewards program. How much action you give them on the pit in the future. All that kind of stuff. Making some people have even said just putting having a mark or having a line of credit on there makes a difference and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's tremendous variance, and that obviously doesn't go just for the Rio. It goes for all Vegas casinos.
I do diamond in the day.
Yeah, always a good play.
Yeah, and it's I think it costs you a few hundred in EV at the end of the day, but it's worth it to get by the lineups. And
if you can fade the variance, right? Because you can. So for those who don't know, diamond in the day is basically, I don't remember the dollar qualification.
I don't either.
$40,000. There's some amount of money that you have to put into a slot machine or a video poker machine. Obviously, you should choose
not physically put in.
Right. Like,
play through.
Cycle through a video poker machine, but video poker, you can run bad at it.
Sure.
And even though your expectation might be 99.6%, you could easily lose way more than that. So obviously, if you can afford the bankroll, then that's a really good option.
Because you're going to get by lineups, you're going to get good deals on rooms and free rooms.
Yep.
You're going to get access. They have a free lounge on the second floor where there's food and drinks and everything you can get in there.
50% off the buffet.
50% off the buffet. Buy all the buffet lineups. Buy the taxi lineups.
Yep.
There's all kinds of good stuff that comes along with being a Diamond Club member. Also, if you're going to stay at the Rio, make sure you stay in the Ipanema Tower.
Yes.
There's 2 towers.
Masquerade is old.
Masquerade is quite old. It's a longer
walk. And it's farther,
walk.
Yep.
Ipanema is quite close, and the rooms are much better.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity, book early and ask for.
And you don't have to pass by that Chippendale sign or the Thunder from Down Under. I can't remember what it is, but you don't have to look at naked men like right as soon as you walk out of your room. Not that I'm threatened in my sexuality in any way,
but you'd rather look at naked women.
Yeah.
Okay,
because you can't do that in Vegas anywhere.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I think we touched on everything there, didn't we? Medium.
I mean, I guess we talked. I guess we didn't talk about
budget.
The lowest of the low end,
Let's
which
do that.
you mentioned on Airbnb. Obviously, you can, you can get some cheap places that people rent out. You can also share rooms with strangers, which is probably not recommended if you're carrying around a bankroll.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's obviously like the budget suites and the extended stays and the I can't remember what they're all called, the Emerald suites. And a lot of these places are super, super cheap. And some of them may or may not have very frequent drug transactions that occur on the front doors. And if you want to actually, the best kind of reference is Dr. Pauly's book on this, and I'm trying to remember.
I haven't read the book yet.
The name of it, and I'm just trying to Google really quick. But it's called Lost Vegas. Dr. Pauly, Paul McGuire, of course, a longtime poker writer and author. It's called Lost Vegas: The Redneck Riviera, Existentialist Conversations with Strippers in the World Series of Poker. I think he wrote it about the 2008 World Series of Poker, where he basically stayed at a budget suites the whole time, trying to bypass the crack dealers and all this kind of stuff, and he gets a room with like no air conditioning and there's like vomit on the floors, and it's a great it's one of my, I don't read a lot of poker literature as such, but it's definitely one of my favorites. And
I like that.
If you want to if you're a brave man, if you're a braver man than me and willing to stay at the budget suites, then you can do that. I've stayed at the Emerald Suites and it wasn't too bad back in 06 or 07 or something like that, but the budget suites is a whole new level. I mean, I used to live at Panorama, as I just mentioned, and so when you drive down Dean Martin Drive south and you pass by the budget suites to kind of go anywhere, to go on Tropicana to get on the I-15, and there is like you're like a 2-to-1 dog to see some sort of emergency vehicle at the budget suites at any given time. Like it's solid like 30-40% of the time that you make that turn from Dean Martin on the Tropicana and like there's the ambulance or a police.
The upside is there's an In-N-Out burger there.
There's an In-N-Out burger there, which
which may also have frequent drug transactions, probably.
Yeah, well, or there's but I mean it's worth it. In-N-Out's the best.
It is worth it.
That's the In-N-Out, by the way. That seems to have the most taxis of anyone because it's the closest one. It's the only one that's basically close to the strip, and so you're constantly seeing. So that's how much people are willing to pay for In-N-Out. Is that you're willing to like just not only pay for the In-N-Out, you're willing to pay for the overhead of having a cab sit in a 20-minute line for.
I'm trying to guess how many times I've done that.
Oh, really?
Probably it's got to be north of a dozen.
Wow. I hope you're at least getting like burgers for other people too.
Oh yeah, it's usually a group of people. My brother generally, and. We're getting a whole bunch, and you're drunk at this point, so you don't care. Like, oh yeah, I'm in a taxi. It cost me $20 extra. So,
how many double doubles can your brother eat?
A lot. Well, he's old now, though. But in his heyday,
is he 30?
He's 30. Yeah, in his heyday, I'm thinking he could have had 3 or 4. I mean, he gets the triples and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember going with. I don't know if I ever told the story. I think I probably have. The very first time we went to Vegas, he was 16.
Oh,
and he got fake ID.
Yeah.
And he looks old because he's a big guy.
Big dude.
He
probably had a beard already.
He was playing blackjack and he was using his fake ID or whatever. But anyway, we go to the Bellagio buffet. And he's never been to a buffet before.
Yeah.
And it's like taking a kid to a candy store. He loves to eat. And the Bellagio buffet is as nice a buffet as you're ever going to see in your life. King crab legs.
Especially you're talking about 15 years ago. It was probably the Nut Cafe.
It was the Nut Buffet, yeah. It's still up there, but
it's still a top 5 for sure,
yeah.
I think. But if you're talking 15 years ago, for sure.
I mean, you put a giant bowl of king crab legs in front of him.
Yeah.
His eyes were just like huge. And so he powers through, plates of that, steak and everything else that he's getting. And then he got to the dessert. He didn't see the dessert at the beginning. He didn't see
so he's already stuffed himself full.
He stuffed himself full. And he sits down and he's just like, sitting back in his chair and he's going, man, that dessert. So we go up to the dessert, and he gets 3 big, cheesecake slices of buffets. They're big, right?
Yeah.
He sits down, he picks one up with his hand, and he puts the entire piece in his mouth.
Like a pizza. He eats a cheesecake like a slice of pizza.
It was and one bite. Oh, my God. I wish I would have had a smartphone at the time and taken a camera. But obviously, they weren't invented, but taken a picture. But it was hilarious. I fell off my chair laughing.
Ross is
we get to experience that with
solid
Ross.
Eater himself, and I don't know if he's Dan Idema Part 2, but I'm willing to look. But I've seen him put down some food.
I can put down.
He doesn't have
food.
Dan's build, but he's got the will. He's got a lot of heart.
I'll try.
He does have heart.
Yeah, I might be able to do a cheesecake. One bite.
One bite cheesecake? All right, we'll see if you can. It's called an Idema, by the way.
An Idema, okay.
All right. So that was first time. Yeah, okay. So that was a little bit more of our prep for Vegas this year. Prep for the World
kind
Series
of dived off into a mailbag tangent, but I'm glad it kind of gave us the opportunity to talk about Vegas Sky Accommodation, because I think a lot of people, definitely if you're first time going in there, you might think...
Did we miss anything?
Well, what in terms of what?
As far as the
options?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we covered it. Basically talking, there's generally kind of 2 large areas, right? There's hotels, and then there's things that people own, right? So like Airbnb and VRBO are stuff people own, and then the hotels are the hotels. So I think that's good to talk about, because I think most people think of, first of all, if it's your first time in Vegas, you probably think you can only stay in casinos, and you could probably only stay in casinos on the Strip, which is absolutely not true, especially if you're there for the World Series of Poker. There are lots of hotel options. And then, again, we talk about the Airbnb and the VRBO and all that kind of stuff, with the caveat that, like, some of these places, you're going to need to rent a car. And if you're under 25, that might be an issue.
That's trouble.
But if not, then you're good.
Indeed. We're going to get to more of Mailbag and lots of other stuff after the break. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hey guys, this is Bart Hansen for CrushLivePoker.com. Whether you're a recreational player who wants to compete at the tables, or you're a professional and you want to increase your win rate, the material that I've produced at CrushLivePoker.com will make you a better poker player. Act now and you can subscribe for free by using the coupon code TPC11. That's TPC for the Pokercast11 and get your first month free.
Under the Gun opens to 3x 200 big blinds deep. I defend my big blind with queen jack off with no spades. The flop comes ace king 10 rainbow with 1 spade, and it's a flop that favors the opener's range more than mine, and it's hard for me to check raise any semi-bluff, so I check call his c-bet for deception and to protect my range. The turn is an 8 putting a flush draw out there, and this time I check raise to set it up for a pot-sized river shove. The river is the worst card in the deck, another ace, and I check with the intention of folding to a shove, but he elects not to turn 10-8 into a bluff, even though it's a great candidate with the full house blockers, and I win the pot.
Team Pro Online's Mickey Memento Mori Peterson is a Supernova VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Hi guys, it's Mike from ProfessionalPoker.com and the 2+2 store with some great news for our PokerStars players. You can now use your frequent player points to purchase gift cards available from ProfessionalPoker.com. These same cards will also work at the 2+2 store. The gift cards come in increments of $25 and $50, and you can apply multiple gift cards per order. Now you can get the books, videos, and ebooks from all the major publishers using just your FPPs. So check out the gift card section of the PokerStars FPP store and pick up the poker training material you've had your eye on for a while at the 2+2 store and ProfessionalPoker.com.
2+2 Pokercast presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. We are in the middle of, just at the start of our mailbag section. So we got a lot to get to. We've already spent some time on it, but let's get to as much as we can today. And maybe we'll save a couple if we get going too long. I think we've got like 12 pieces of mail or something to get through. So we got to hurry up. First one is from Lose Your Lips. I was wasting time on YouTube thanks to you bringing up the big game in Shark Cage, and I thought it might be nice to have a segment to interview a 10-year-plus poker star, in quotes, to either Where Are They Now or Biggest Poker Regret. Now the poker has been popular for a dozen years. We could check in the likes of Robert Varconi. Oh, there you go. Gabe Kaplan, Julian Gardner. Many others could share some of their good stories. That's a good idea.
I thought Julian Gardner still plays poker, but anyway.
Yeah. I think, does Varconi still play poker?
Not that I know. Maybe he does.
I'm not sure.
I guess we could check Hendon on. But.
Gabe certainly plays cash games, I think, I'm pretty sure. But that's a good idea. We need, hopefully, there's some people out there that could have contacts for any old gamblers. We've had Billy Baxter on before, and he was a lot of fun to listen to. And I actually heard him recently on Gambling with an Edge, which is another gambling podcast that I enjoy. And he is really good. There's all kinds of stories. But if there's some people out there who have some ideas on a guest and have any kind of contact info for them, or friends with, whatever, we'd love to hear any suggestions for sure. The one person, and I think I've mentioned this before, that we've never had on the show that I would love to have on the show is Dewey Tomko.
Okay.
I'd love to have Dewey to tell golf stories, and he was one of the first guys down in Costa Rica, I believe.
I was going to say I was just about to say we could have asked Thomas to get an intro because I think Thomas and Dewey know each other pretty well.
Oh, okay, maybe we'll do that because I once got a phone number for Dewey, and I texted him, and I think he'd abandoned the number or just stopped responding to texts or whatever.
Maybe he doesn't do the text.
Maybe
thing.
He's not a text guy, but I'd love to have Dewey. If anybody has any good specific suggestions and contact info, we'd love to have them. Next piece is, hi guys, love the show. Writing from Halifax, good old Halifax, Nova Scotia.
I've never been to Halifax.
I've never been to Halifax either. MJ's sister lives in Halifax.
I've been to Halifax more than I've been to any other Canadian city.
Really?
Probably.
Why?
Yeah, my mom's whole side of the family is from there.
Oh, Halifax?
Yeah, it's nice.
I'm a huge Stan Rogers fan, so Halifax is a town that I'd love to
I've heard
go
it's a beautiful place.
It's got a lot of history. It's beautiful in the ocean.
Indeed. The Blue Nose is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although I'm just a very casual player, I never miss an episode. I'm wondering if you know anything about the Atlantic Lottery Corporation getting into the online poker business. I understand that you have this in BC and Play Now, but wasn't sure if any other provinces participate. Is the Play Now site okay, or should I even be wasting my time asking about this? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Troy Blades, Live Lobster Account Manager, USA, Japan. Never mind the question.
Yeah.
I'm not really...
So this is what to give you a sense of what jobs are out there in Halifax.
Live Lobster Account Manager?
Well, I want to know what
I wanted how I applied for the job.
Well, what does live...
Does
live modify the word lobster or modify the word account? Does he manage...
It's got to be lobster. That's modifying lobster.
So
he's sending live lobsters around the world
to various accounts.
You can buy live lobsters
on the
past
internet?
the security checkpoint in the Halifax airport.
Can you really?
No kidding. So you can bring a lobster on the plane?
What is it, like in water? Like how do they
take
keep
it in like a box and you like bring it on
you
the
can
plane?
Just it moves around in the box?
How have I never heard about this? That's amazing. Can you? Yeah, you probably.
I want to be that's the greatest job. Live lobster account manager.
Why play poker, Troy?
But he could have got a job with Full Tilt Poker back in the day. They had a lobster guy. Speaking of the Atlantic Lottery Corp, right now, Play Now, I believe, is in British Columbia, Quebec, and Manitoba.
Yeah.
So, in expanding, Ontario has their own client, I believe, or is coming up with their own client. And they're staying themselves. There's talk of Alberta and different other provinces coming in with Play Now people. It's good. Play Now. There's nothing wrong with Play Now unless you're looking to play, 5-10 no limit hold'em. If you're okay with 50 cent a dollar, $1, $2, I don't even think there's a ton of $1, $2 action, but there's definitely some smaller stakes tournaments and no limit hold'em.
Is it shared liquidity among the three provinces?
Shares liquidity. Yeah,
it's only a few tables running. My roommate got in there because he heard from another person at Live Poker that the games are extremely soft.
Yeah.
and they are pretty soft, but you have like extremely limited selection.
Yeah,
it'll be like a few micro-stakes games, and then like 1 or 2 50-cent a dollar.
Kind of like
tables.
that thing. Like every 2-set 4-set game is soft.
yeah. And
by definition,
and there's like you're lucky to find a PLO game.
Yeah,
but they do run like World Series satellites and stuff like that. As soon as I recall, so there's probably either they're going, assuming they're guaranteeing a seat. So there's only 2 possibilities. Either they're going to get enough players to fill that seat, or you're going to have an overlay. Either of which it seems like it would be a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you've got no security issues. You've got no cash in and out issues.
Right. No legality issues.
No legality
knock
issues.
down your door or anything like that, or seize your account.
You can cash out it instantly, etc. So there's a lot of upside as well. Moving on, Michael Suh, S-U-H, is that Suh? Is that how it's pronounced? Right. So, and just so we don't, when it's not all positive and hip hip hooray, we got some constructive criticism as well. We're going to read one right now. I'm a longtime fan of the 2+2 Pokercast. As I was catching up with shows that I have missed over the last few months, I was surprised and bummed out to realize that Mike had moved on. The one major critique I have of you and T is that you guys like to get in your high horse a bit too often. In podcast format, the one thing that does not come across well is personal judgment of issues, ideas, or people. Unless you're a pro comedian like Curl or Stern, there's a fine line between judgment and opinion. I don't know if T goes back to listen to himself or doing a show, but I suggest he does. He may want to do this. He goes on more discussion, and to be completely honest, when I'm frustrated at work, Adam, you cheer me up, but T, he aggravates.
I'm also long-winded.
You're long-winded. I didn't get to that part. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he's a good dude, but you should remember we are listeners. I think these are powerful notions to be aware of. A recent example of this was your take on poker award shows. You guys went off the reservation with this. You stated your opinion, but the way you backed it up was pure personal judgment. You both came off being too cool for school and somewhat insecure. You put a guest of your show on trial like he was doing something wrong. That was Alex Dreyfus from the GPI that we had on. He was put on the defensive, which I thought was a low point for your show. Even the guest said that award shows are nothing but a way to promote poker and help drive interest in the public. It's obviously a case where you and T could have used more objectivity on the topic and less subjectivity. Oh, and your subjectivity had less value than maybe you guys thought. So here's the thing about this is we do a show and we talk about topics and we have to give our opinions.
Right.
And I understand, we try to keep it light. We don't bring up negative things and try and be dicks very often anyway, that I'm aware of. Maybe we do it more than I'm aware of. But we have I think you and I are pretty strong opinionated on a lot of the things, and we tend to see eye to eye on most of the topics.
Yeah. I don't know about the Alex interview personally. I personally don't remember going off and being a pit bull on him. I again have to listen to that. True. With respect to me being long-winded, yeah, that's probably true. That's probably fair.
It's a 3-hour podcast for a reason.
Yeah, and I'm 50% of the hosts on the show. The thing, we can't have a show without opinion. Like there's just, if you wanted to listen to a poker news show where you just talk about stuff, there's probably something else that you could do that, or you could just read Poker News blog. I don't really think that there's any way to kind of run the show otherwise, and make it a 3-hour show. We could make it a 1-hour show and talk about this happened in poker this week, and I have no strong opinion on it whatsoever. But I wouldn't be around to do that show. I mean, but it's fair. I mean, if Michael feels this way, that's fine. I'm sure there. I don't know if there are other people out there who enjoy listening to our opinions, but we've got to talk about stuff. Certainly, we never intend to attack guests or bring things in, and I think that's one of the things that I think you and Mike often got criticized for. Was like if you had a guest on the show who was unpopular, you were like, oh, why didn't you ask him any tough questions, or why didn't you do that? And I remember MJ was always saying, well, that's not the way these things work. Like we're not bringing people in to sort of grill them, and I think I think
for the
that's
most part,
the correct thing to do. Yeah. Howard is an obvious counterexample,
Paul Leggett,
but that's the whole point of having guys like that on the show.
Yeah, we definitely. If it came off that way with Alex, I apologize. That wasn't the intention. The intention was to get his viewpoint on why these things are good for poker, and because that was a lot of the discussion. Should these things be happening? And apologize if we came off too cool for school on it. It's just our opinion at the time, and I've come around. I certainly have.
Yeah, if you listen to the first segment, obviously. But I mean, Poker Award Show is the thing that we always bring up on the show as the one thing that, it's been, your pet peeve and to a lesser extent mine, but I certainly don't feel all that strongly on it. But when I do feel strongly on an issue, I know that I've gone off on a lot of stuff, like poker shot clocks and stalling and that kind of stuff. I will
pet issues.
I've ranted about stalling and people playing slowly, and I've done it for a long time, and I'm probably going to continue to do it because it's an issue that I feel strongly about. I think it's relevant to poker. And it's it's not like I'm going off on something that doesn't matter.
Anyway,
legit.
Moving on. Hi guys, just wanted to say thanks for the ideas on locations to go for a holiday with some poker. I had a look at Card Player Cruises as suggested, and liked the look of their upcoming inaugural land-based event in St. Martin. I've never been to the Caribbean, so looking forward to giving it a go. Although all-inclusive, including alcohol, may not lead to my best poker playing, it may lead to some hilarity.
The good news is you won't be the only one drinking and playing poker on that boat. So you're not necessarily at a disadvantage.
You're at a disadvantage, yeah. Drink slightly less than everybody else, and you're going to be okay.
Then you have an edge.
The buy-ins for the tournaments, if I fancy more than just a cash session, are low enough to keep the focus fun after a day of sun catching, snorkeling, and cocktail sipping. In relation to the comments from episode 352 on the World Poker Tour not having a female winner so far, at least in the WPT 500, it has a 50-50 split on male-female victors. Of course, this email's from Eleanor Gudger, who actually won one of the two WPT 500s. I think there's just been two WPT 500s events. The one at Ari last summer and the one at Dust Till Dawn in November. So there's been two. She won one of them. Congrats as well to Dust to Dawn for winning the best live tournament at the British Poker Awards this month for the WPT 500. Keep up the good work, Eleanor Goodger. Great. The Card Player Cruises are run by Linda Johnson, Mark Tanner, Jan Fisher, and my buddy Al, who the guy who runs it, actually, he and I were both props at Party Poker way back in the day when Party just was...
When being a prop at Party Poker was a thing?
Yeah. Al runs the place there. So if you want to incorporate poker in a cruise...
Yeah, they've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. Next one, A. Schwartz. I'm writing in again to offer a suggestion for a potential segment for the end of the show titled The Roscoe Report. The premise of the report would be for Ross to give an update on how he's progressing in his attempts at grinding on stars and in live games. The reason I think it could work is that at one point or another, many of the casual listeners will have tried to make a go at progressing up the stakes online, and it would be great to hear how Ross does in his efforts. Well, you have some great guests on the show. Most of them arguably been quite successful within the game, and I think hearing from someone who's trying to find their way could be a different, interesting angle to take. It need not to be too long, and I think the listeners could relate to Ross's journey. Finally, I always enjoy his contributions. He's a funny cat, and even his mishaps give me a chuckle. He still has that giddy excitement of poker that most of us can fondly remember. Keep up the good work. Eddie.
Signed Ross's mom. I believe that's who actually wrote that email, that listener
Trying
email.
to find my way is a nice way to put it.
Yes. Ross, give us a little Roscoe report.
Yeah, give us the first segment. Do you have a drop for it?
Here's the thing.
He's got dramatic music.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
The Roscoe Report. Well, I've been playing online. I made my nut for February.
All right.
So
He's got a roof over.
Paid in the rent. I took about a week off. Had to hang out with the girlfriend quite a bit. So I played a lot online, and I've started building my roll back up. And then I took... what was it the other night? I told Adam at the start of the show.
Yeah.
I was about to get my FPP bonus on stars, the extra like $200 or whatever, and I was like, oh, this will make a nice. I'll cap off the night with the extra 200, and I was already up for the day. I had my account at like a new high, and I proceeded to lose like 12 buy-ins while I was trying to get 1,000 FPPs.
That does happen.
The doom switch.
You got to think long term.
Yeah. So things are turning around online. Obviously, I'm struggling because I love playing online more than playing live.
Better playing live.
I make so much more money playing live.
Yeah.
So I should probably go put more hours in there.
I would suggest one of the reasons you're doing well live is because of the fact that you're playing online.
Yeah.
I think you're learning
Also
a lot.
true.
You're
That's
getting a
good
lot
point.
of hands
You have to
in.
put in those hands. Yeah. So even if your BB per 100 or whatever is smaller online, it's definitely an educational one, and that's why online players are crushing the poker world these days.
Right.
For sure.
So you look at exactly.
Yeah, because when I get that, you can take your time and think about like every different decision in a hand like a lot more thoroughly when you're playing one hand at a live table, and I've found that but mostly because I've watched online trading videos and put in a lot of hands, I can make a lot more optimal decisions than the average 1-2 player, I think, at this point.
Good. Roscoe Report. That's their... maybe we can get a...
Episode 1 of the Roscoe Report.
Yeah, we need another
now in the can.
Alex From the Roscoe Report, let's go to the Pokerstars Report. So stepping in this week for Mr. Matthew Hilger is... we had Stapes last week. This is James Hartigan, his broadcasting partner, of course, of many years. James, welcome to the Pokercast.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Yeah, I've been wheeled to undo the damage that Joe Stapleton did last week. So this is a PR recovery exercise.
We thought he might be fired. It's been a week. He made it through the week without getting canned, so we're pretty happy about that.
No, I mean, he has a shtick, shall we say, and a lot of what my good friend and colleague says is tongue in cheek. Sadly, there's always someone out there who takes him a bit too seriously sometimes.
Not too many, I don't think. People enjoyed it. So a few things we want to talk about. We did mention the EPT Not Live podcast that I'm looking forward to with you and Stapes, of course. When can we expect that, and how do you see that working out?
If you head to iTunes now, you can download the inaugural edition of EPT Not Live. It is ready. Ooh. It's out there. It's in the public domain. Nice. We recorded the show on Wednesday. It's out now, and we've us doing it. I've got to be honest with you. I've obviously a long-time listener to the Pokercast. I used to love the dynamic between you and Michael. I love the dynamic between you and Terrence now. And I'm jealous of you guys because I come from a radio background, and I really miss doing radio. There is something about it which TV just can't capture. And even TV on the internet can't capture. There's an intimacy, there's an informality about it that's just such a lot of fun. And so to do that again, behind a microphone, not have to worry about being subservient to picture, not having to follow a script or any action. It was great. It was liberating. And we had an absolute blast. And I hope that comes across when you listen to the show.
So should we trade jobs in the future? Kind of thing. We get to travel to Europe, and you guys can sit in the basement studio in Vancouver. This seems fair.
Well, I was actually thinking back to when I was last working in radio, and bizarrely, Terrence, I think it was when I first met you.
Yep.
Which was my first ever gig as a poker commentator.
Mine
back
too.
When I was,
it was both of our first gigs. What the hell
yes,
what were like Francine and the rest of them even thinking, having two people like you and I in there? No, it was a lot of fun.
It was the blind leading the blind, but no, it was an absolute blast, and obviously it launched a completely new career for myself. But yeah, to think back then, I was a radio guy, and as I said, I have no regrets at all, but a little bit of me does miss it. And so I know a podcast isn't quite the same, but hey, we call a TV show that goes out on the internet a TV show. So why the hell should a radio show that's on the internet in pre-recorded form not also be a radio show? It's a goddamn radio show.
It's easier to explain it to like your grandparents or your parents, because they wouldn't understand what a podcast or a YouTube stream or a live internet stream is. So I think we just call it that to appease the older generation.
I think when I first introduced my dad to the concept of a podcast, his immediate response was, I assume you have to have an iPod to listen to it.
There you go.
I want to talk about editing. Now, this is your inaugural episode. Of course, Stapes, as you said, can head off the reservation a little bit sometimes. Was it, did you guys go, geez, we can't put that in there at any point, or what happened there?
I can, hand on heart, say that we recorded pretty much as live. A couple of times I lost my way, so we had to kind of just tighten the edit and post-production. As far as content is concerned, there have been no editorial changes to the version that's gone out there. And it actually went, just to sort of peel back the curtain a little bit and take you behind the scenes, it went through 3 tiers of management, all of whom said yes. So yeah, that's why it's managed to sort of go through the fast track process and get out onto iTunes immediately. Everyone seems pretty happy with it. I mean, Joe said last week that it was going to be pretty much free reign and a mostly uncensored show. And I think that was an acknowledgement of, again, it's to do with the radio format. I think people's expectations are very different. And because you're not looking necessarily at the brand, there's no danger of there being any association with what comes out of either of our mouths and the red spade. But also, I think necessary that we do have something. And I'm not saying for 1 second that it's, cutting edge or in any way kind of, skirting the line, but something that's a little bit rougher, shall we say? Because I think otherwise you can be too safe, you can be too boring. And after all, we are providing a form of adult entertainment. We're making a show for adults. So I think sometimes you have to talk to people like they are adults.
You mentioned traveling around to different tournaments. Of course, we have the EPT Malta coming up with 730 events or something. It seems like a lot.
It's a comedy number, Adam. I think you'll find that it's a comedic number of events. It's 69.
Okay.
I'm sure your co-host has never made any joke
married.
about that.
I don't know what that entails.
Oh dear, that was a poor bluff. It's going to be an absolutely huge festival, and I'm pleased to say that because I'm doing some other stuff behind the scenes, I'm going to be there for most of it, even though we're only actually live streaming the last 5 days of the festival, which is obviously the last 5 days of the main event. But what I love about the way these festivals have progressed over the years is the fact that they've driven them cheaper. Most of these events are 100, 200, 300 euro, 500 euro tournaments. And it's very much aimed at, for want of a better phrase, the poker tourist. So while we always encourage people to play the online satellites on Stars and try and get their way into the 5K main event, if that doesn't happen, it's a great place to come, to go on a 4 or 5 day holiday to Malta, where the weather, I understand, is pretty pleasant, and then, play some affordable tournaments. Because if you think about the side events at festivals, you're thinking about 1Ks and 2Ks. I would never dream about playing a tournament that costs 1,000 euros. True, I am a complete schnorrer, but also it's out of most people's bankrolls. It's out of most people's budgets. But if you say to me, I can have the EPT experience and sit down at a table and play with the best dealers in the business in that really glorious environment and only pay 200 or 300 euros, that's worth it. That is totally worth it. And so that's the message that we're trying to get out on our show, and we're trying to get out on the live streams and trying to get on the TV shows now, that in addition to the online qualification route, don't forget the fact that the main event is one of, in this case, 69, and many of those other events are very much going to be within your budget and within your bankroll.
Speaking of within bankroll and affordable tournaments, coming up on the next Sunday after the Sunday after next. That's how it's said in England, isn't it? The Sunday 9th anniversary, the Sunday Million 9th anniversary, $9 million prize pool, $1 million for first place. Everybody's got to be pretty excited around Stars these days.
Absolutely, yeah. If we'll do the English to American translation. So here's the English. The tournament is taking place on the 15th of March, whereas on the other side of the water, it's on March 15.
Yes,
that's right.
It's the Ides of March.
Oh, it is.
That's the easiest way to remember. We all agree that Caesar's going to get stabbed and somebody's going to win $1 million.
And it's also Mother's Day here in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. A subject without some controversy, of course. We talked about that particular controversy, I think, 2 weeks running on this show, basically.
Yes. Well, let's not get into a dull conversation about scheduling. And I think, unfortunately, and Terrence, I know you have experience of this, due to the fact that I carry a Pokerstars badge, I'm unable to play said tournament. And this is where I get very jealous of Joe Stapleton, because he still gets to play on Pokerstars, and I know that he is currently going through the satellite route to get into the Sunday Million, which probably means he'll end up playing a ton of sats and then still paying the $215 buy-in. But I mean, I think it's going to be hard for him not to satellite in because there are just so many of the darn things. You know, there's satellites left, right, and centre. You know, some as cheap as $1. Plus, there are FPP satellites as well. But yeah, and I would like to say, by the way, that Joe would be dead money in that tournament. But he's actually got a decent track record in the Sunday Million.
Is that right?
The weird thing is, you know, people. I think Joe can tend to sometimes be a little bit. What's the phrase I'm looking for? I think he puts himself down sometimes in terms of his poker ability.
Self-depreciating.
Yeah, so he is. He's self-deprecating, yes. And he'll say, for example, yeah, I can talk a good game, but yeah, I'm not a poker player. I'm still learning, blah, blah, blah. I'm not very good. But actually, he is a really solid cash player and also a pretty solid tournament player as well.
So you could buy a piece of him if you wanted.
Again, I'm not sure what the staff policy on that is. I will have to consult one of the many pages in the guidelines which I was issued with a year ago, and I've only got to page 986. Once I get to like the page 2000, maybe it'll have something in there about that. It will probably be improper of me to do so.
You had to go through 3 levels of authentication to yes. get that dealt with. We asked Stapes last week if he gets recognized now after being on the EPT television programs for so long. I want to ask you if your voice ever gets recognized, because that's distinctive about you. I mean, I'm not British, so I don't get a chance to see if everybody has the same level of recognition that I do. But it would seem to me your voice would be the thing that gets recognized.
But again, normally only in a casino environment. Just as Joe said to you last week, personally, I love it. I don't have the same desire for attention as Joe does. I don't need that public adoration. So I'm quite happy to go through life being anonymous. But not to say that it isn't really nice to go into somewhere like the Hippodrome in London or any of the venues we go to around the world and for people to either recognize you visually or recognize the voice. Bizarrely, recently, when we went to Deauville and I had to rent a car from my local car hire agency, the guy there recognized my voice and then looked at the sheet and recognized my name because he watched the EPT on TV. That is probably one of 2 times in 10 years that someone outside of a poker room has worked out who I was.
So you haven't signed any autographs? 0 career autographs?
Only in a context where I've been signing competition prizes alongside Joe, who normally volunteers to do it, and I kind of like reluctantly sign alongside him. I actually look. There's nothing that makes me happier than when people come up and say, "Oh, we love the shows, we love what you guys do," and obviously that's great. You know, I'm sure you guys feel the same way when people compliment you on the Pokercast. But I also get really funny about it. I go, probably it's kind of British, and I go, well, this is very awkward. I'm not quite sure how to react around these people now. Yes, jolly good, thank you, bye. Whereas Joe just laps it up, bless him. And he's great with the fans.
He is. I want to get your opinion on one thing that we talk about a fair amount, or we have in the last couple of years, and that's this hole card discussion, showing hole cards on camera. We talk about it in the context of the World Series of Poker, but we always, are looking at it from the viewer standpoint. I wanted to get your opinion on it, on the showing and not showing of hole cards. What's your take on it, James?
It's a tough one because obviously I come at this very much from a TV guy, as a media guy, rather than being a poker guy. So you'd think that what I would want would be in the best interests of what makes a good TV show and what's best for the audience. But actually, I guess I've been around poker players and been around tournament staff and been around a company like Pokerstars for so long that I actually think the game integrity is so much more important. I think that the solution we have on the EPT is imperfect, but it's probably the best balance you can achieve in a major tournament where there is a desire, where there is an appetite for people to see the hole cards, but also tries to preserve the integrity of the game. And that is that throughout the preliminary days, you do not show hole cards. Where there is more than one table in the tournament, you do not put any players at a disadvantage by only showing their cards when everyone else doesn't have to be at that perceived disadvantage. But then once it's a level playing field, once everyone's on the final table and everyone knows the game, and bear in mind they will have signed the T's and C's when they entered the tournament, then you can say, okay, there is going to be on a 1 hour delay for security reasons, but in an hour's time, everyone's going to know every holding from every single hand. And again, I appreciate some players don't like that. But if you're going to make one compromise, and bear in mind that compromise might just bring new blood and new money into poker, I'd like to think that most players would agree it's a sacrifice worth making.
Yeah, James, I don't think there would be many people out there who would argue that the whole card camera has been one of the key drivers of the success of poker over the last decade. I mean, with everything we've seen. Now, I want to touch on something you just mentioned, which is the integrity and how that's important to you. And I would hope it's important to everybody in television production. Now, for those who don't necessarily know, what kind of security exists with respect to the whole cards? Kind of who has access to it? Because I think it's something that everybody just kind of plays a poker tournament and assumes it's safe and it's maybe only going to one guy. But, to the extent that you can, maybe talk a little about that for our listeners.
Sure. Well, let's talk about those preliminary days. And I mean, obviously, at an event like Malta, which won't actually be televised, there will be no one recording any whole card information during the first 4 days of the stream. No cards. If it's a televised event, let's take Monaco, for example, during those preliminary days. Now, when we make TV shows down the line, we're going to need to know whole card information. We now use the RFID technology. These are the microchips in the playing cards and the little scanners under the table, all of which is encrypted, all of which is, and the information is transmitted over secure lines. The advantage of that is in a situation where you have whole cards, you need someone to actually be looking at cameras and actually entering information into a database. So there's a human element and there's potentially human error, right? But by having a computer scan the information, it goes into the computer and you just need one guy to monitor that and make sure the information is going in. Just one guy. And that guy is in a sealed off area with a special pass, with a security guy who's outside that room permanently to make sure that no one goes in while play is in progress. And that guy is obviously sworn to secrecy, and no matter what people might say during the breaks, like, oh, that was a big hand, what did he have there? That guy's not going to crack. He's a very trustworthy member of the team, and he understands the responsibility he is given. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, on a final table day, a lot more people are going to see the whole cards because the entire crew in the gallery who are actually putting together the live show, they are going to see the whole cards, which are then delayed for the commentators and the webcast team to see later. But again, we're talking about a relatively small team, a handful of people, many of whom have been working on the EPT since the very beginning, since that first event in Barcelona back in season 1. And again, a team that's trustworthy, understands the implications of information leaking out, and from both a technical point of view and from a human point of view, I'd like to think our productions are pretty secure. Over the years, have there been mistakes, indiscretions? Probably, potentially, yes. But right here, right now, I think we do a pretty damn fine job, and we all understand the importance of that.
That guy cannot fall asleep.
I was just going to say he couldn't go to the bathroom.
Or go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's the first thing that you and I both thought of was, wait, this guy has that's a tough job. Like he doesn't get to leave the room. Like
he's got to
we provide him.
Yeah,
we provide him with a bucket. Because bear in mind, as far as we're concerned, manning that station, manning that whole card console is as important as basically manning the weapon system of a nuclear submarine. He is handcuffed to his station and only relieved when play is over, and he will be unlocked from that station and allowed to return to his silo.
Another bucket for Monsieur.
There's going to be one day. There's going to be a whole card camera guy union, and they want.
Oh, it'd be guy, yeah. It'd be good. They strike, and the whole place comes to a screeching halt. So, James, if you've listened to the show, we do a bit of a fun thing called stripper trivia. However, we have beaten it to death, such to the point where we can't ask the same questions anymore. So we've now started tailoring our questions for each guest. So,
does that mean you're actually having to do some work and do some research?
Yeah, we're not just recycling old crap over and over every week. Yeah,
yes, indeed. Hopefully this is a little more fun. So I'm going to set a line. We actually have 5 questions. I made up 4, but we just got one on Twitter. Don't look here. No Googling in the background.
He just finished giving you a 5-minute speech about integrity, and now he's going to cheat when he can't even win any money.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to set the line here of 5. There's some difficult. I'm going to set it at 2.5.
See, this is hard because I don't know how hard these questions are. So I'm looking at these. There's a little bit of mix. There's some arts and entertainment. There's some sports. There's some random stuff.
Oh, no, Terrence doesn't have the best of it.
You know what? This looks hard to me. I will take the under.
Under 2.5. James, there is not much confidence in your ability.
The minute that Terrence mentioned that there's sports questions in there, I decided to take the under on 2.5.
All right, we got $20. I have 3 or more. Terrence has 2 or less. Name 5 of the 6 actors to play 007.
Sean Connery, Roger Moore, George Lazenby, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, Daniel Craig. I know that was all 6.
How about all 6?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Boom. Just correct. Rattled them off. What university did Stapes attend?
Boston University.
I'm free rolling on 3 questions for the win.
No, you're not. 2 is not a free roll.
Oh, sorry, I'm not. Yeah, 2. Yeah, sorry. I need one of the 3.
Okay.
That was a coin flip. I knew it was either Boston University or Boston College. I was just having to remember. And do you know how I remembered it?
How?
It's because it gets referenced at the beginning of The Social Network. That's how I remember it.
Why you should have just said Boston.
Sick beat. I thought it was because you're bizarre, for a Brit, love of American college football. I thought you're one of these guys that surprisingly, as a Brit, you really like American football.
Yeah, and I hate soccer, which makes me a pariah in my own country.
I didn't know that.
Boy, we have a soccer question coming up too. Yeah, that's not good.
Okay.
I'm doomed.
All right, but I think he's just going to ship it right here, right now. How many events were held in season 1 of the EPT?
How many actual events? So you don't mean actual tournaments. You mean how many stops on the tour were there?
Correct.
Okay. London, Dublin, Copenhagen, Deauville, Vienna. 7.
20 is going to that way.
Ship this guy. All right, let's see if he can run the table. Coventry City last won the FA Cup in what year?
I have no fucking idea. 1983.
Oh, very close.
Not that far.
87. That's a. I'm not going to say what that's. If anybody gets that reference, I will give them a shout out on the next show. The 5th and final question.
Is that a Monty Python reference?
It is. It's the World Forum.
The answer is Coventry City have never won the FA Cup.
Well, the funny thing is, it was done before they actually won in 1987.
Yes.
But good recall.
So he gets. It would have been a gross beat if he'd gotten the correct answer through Monty Python, despite the fact that he doesn't like soccer.
He doesn't like soccer. Yeah, exactly. But for anybody who doesn't know that, it's a skit they do called World Forum, where Eric Idle comes in. He's very serious, and today we have Lenin and Che Guevara and Karl Marx and Mao Zedong. They've got them all sitting around a table, and then Idle says, the Hammers is the nickname of what European football club, and they all just kind of look at each other. It's classic. The 5th and final question: who is the only person or actor to be killed by Alien, Predator, and Terminator? This is via Twitter, Johnny Chip.
Wow, that's a really good question.
Good one, right? I didn't know it.
To be killed by Alien, Predator, and Terminator.
Obviously, he's an actor playing 3 different characters, but still the same actor.
Bill Paxton?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
What a pro. Wow. 4 out of 5. And almost got the 5th.
Yeah.
Very close.
Just shot in the dark. All right.
Fantastic job, James.
Might be the trivia champion.
Yeah.
I mean, they're different questions every week but than normally they are, but I don't know if anybody would have crushed that as hard.
You did crush.
To be fair, you threw me an easy one with the James Bond question.
Yeah.
I
was planning on you on getting that one, and I was planning on you getting the EPT one. The Stapes one was the one that I was hoping maybe you just didn't like the guy enough to answer the question correctly.
But the irony is, as I said, I only got the Stapes one because it has a movie connection to it. That's how sad my world is.
Indeed. James, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Good luck over in Malta.
Not at all, guys.
And have some fun.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye, James.
Bye,
Good
James.
talking to you always.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
Let's jump back into Mailbag. Alex McKenzie writes, which tourney at the WSOP will be softer/easier? $1,500 Six Max, which I normally play in brackets, or the $1,500 horse I spoke of in an earlier email. I know EV push shove ratio. I'm just undecided. Thanks, guys. Great show.
So I'm trying to remember the earlier email. I think it was a couple of weeks back. This was the guy who wrote about how he had a limited budget and he wanted to know which one, and he maybe wanted to play with some Superstars. Is that the same guy? Okay. So I've played both of these tournaments a lot, and now I would say they're both soft. But one of the things that's different between the two tournaments is that the 6-max no limit, when you get deep into the tournament, like the fish are all busto. That's one of the things about shorthanded no limit is that once you it starts off because it's a much bigger field, obviously no limit than horse. So your early tables will probably be really soft. I mean, you'll be pretty disappointed if you don't get a soft table early in a 6-max no limit. Whereas at a horse table,
it's a 10K or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I mean. A 1500, yeah. Whereas 1500 horse, you're probably also going to get some bad players. There's a chance you might get a tough table draw, but the attrition isn't quite as bad.
Well, just before you continue, what I will say about the people when you get you think is a tough table draw really isn't, because you can see a no limit hold'em player sit down and go, "Holy mackerel! I'm at the table. I'm at a table with whoever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Big no limit hold'em superstar.
Right.
Well, they're not necessarily any good at all.
Right.
At 6 of the 7 games that you're going to be playing.
And actually, to some extent, vice versa too. A lot of the old school guys who are really good at limit games, because if you started playing poker in the 80s, 90s, then you're probably pretty strong at the limit games, but you might be behind the curve in no limit, right? Probably not truly awful, but definitely a lot of these mixed game specialists are not good at no limit. Yeah, especially if you're net, especially talking about 6-max. Kind of off topic a little, but yeah, that's sort of my feel about it. But I would say, he put in brackets what I normally play is 6-max no limit. Then certainly play that, because I mean you can only have an edge in horse if you're better at the horse games than other people. It sounds obvious, but I will say that horse probably is slightly softer than the field overall, because I think horse has more people who think they're good at the games, or they're good at like 2 of the games, or they're okay at 2 of the games, and they're just atrociously bad at 3 or 4, even 4 of them sometimes. But most people who enter no limit have kind of general fundamental concepts of how to play no limit.
Well, and in the day now where there's not a whole lot of limit hold'em tournaments, there's not a whole lot of limit cash games.
They're kind of funneled into playing horse.
They're funneled in, but they think they're no limit hold'em players playing limit hold'em, and they're not very good at it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because they don't get a chance. These no limit hold'em tournament guys don't get a chance to play limit hold'em almost ever.
And the other thing is, if you are a casual, not very good no limit hold'em player, you have like 40 different tournaments to choose from, right? So you may not play that particular 1500 6-max. You might play the weekend 1500 9-max or 10-max or whatever it is, or the 1K 10-handed, or the Colossus, or whatever it is. Whereas, a lot of these recreational players, because there's such a relatively smaller number of mixed games, I tend to think the 1500 horse probably has, if you took a player who's equally good at both, entering the horse tournament might have a higher ROI, but if you're not a good limit hold'em or Omaha stud game player, then that's not going to help you.
Yeah, I think if you play all the games fairly well, I think the horse
probably has a bigger edge there. Yeah,
because your point is really good. In 6-max no limit hold'em events, when you get near the end of it, you're up against really good players.
Yeah, the last 100 players in any given tournament, really good. The high level is
Next email, Pokercast team. This is from Austin Spina. Sick brag on where I listen to from follows. Beside listening to the Pokercast during my commute in Stop and Go Island traffic. Stop and Go Island traffic? Where's that? I also listen to you guys on some submarine deployments. So Island would be Hawaii. Yeah, probably. I definitely listen to you guys in places I can't mention.
Well, so we're just going to keep speculating. That. Is it Guam?
But one place, Area 50, whatever it is. No. But one place I can safely say is I was listening to you guys hundreds of feet underwater at the intersection of the equator and the international date line.
Wow.
Middle of nowhere.
I'm trying to think where that is. That's pretty badass. So Where does it show up on iTunes when he downloads it from there?
Right.
Exactly. iTunes listing his location at.
3 things he has to offer. So this is a bit long, but stick with it. It's a good email. Stripper trivia. In my journeys, quotes, I ran into a stripper with a degree in astrophysics, and this actually happened to you and I in Fallsview when this game was born. We ran into one that
that's kind of how the day was born.
That's how
intelligent strippers. We love them.
I thought it was BS until we talked about particle physics for about 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure she would have gone 4 for 4 of our old questions. Additionally, my wife used to be a stripper, and I'm convinced she could get all 4. I love this guy. This guy's awesome.
He's like he's got the finger on the nuke button. He's got stripper wife. And,
he knows strip. This is great. His question is,
fuck yeah, bud.
Has a stripper ever gotten all of them right? And the answer is no, I don't think.
No.
There is one person that I remember that is the only person to ever run the table that I can remember, and that's Reno Duck. Steve Friedlander went 4 for 4. I don't know that anybody else has.
I don't know that anybody else has. I don't think anybody else has either. So stripper or poker player.
Stripper.
There are lots of very intelligent strippers. We don't mean to demean
no. That's not
the professional declothers.
No. Okay, the second part of it is I'll finally be making my first trip out to the World Series of Poker this year. I'll arrive in Vegas on Thursday, June 25th, right after the 1,500 Dealer's Choice. I've got some mixed game experience, but I'm definitely going to have to study up on my draw games for the next few months. My biggest concern is that I've never played in a mixed limit tournament before, so I'm trying to figure out what type of game to select when I'm the dealer, depending on my chip stack. My initial reaction is to play big bet games when small stacked and triple draw games when a big stack. However, I'm worried that I'll just get called down by inexperienced players in the draw games, in brackets by poor players. Anyway, so it's not like I can abuse small stacks when the blinds get high. I'm sure there's a ton of factors I'm not thinking about. Also, I know game selection depends on a ton of factors like everyone else's stacks, blind sizes, and what games I and my opponents are good at. I'm thinking some sick metagame ideas to pick my weakest game as my first dealer's choice, and then hope nobody picks that one anymore since they think I'm good at it. Either way, just curious for your take on the tourneys, since I know you guys have significant mixed game and mixed limit experience.
This is a great question.
It's a good question.
And I love this question because this is something that, I'm on a mailing list with Bill Chen and Jared Ankerman. We've talked about...
They're good at limit, those guys.
Well, and we've talked specifically about the metagame of choosing these games and doing stuff exactly like you're saying, picking your weakest games early and hoping that people, suckering them into thinking that these are your stronger game. There's no clear answer for that. Tables break and stuff like that. It's not really clear to me that that's good. I mean, the worst strategy in the world wouldn't be just pick your best game all the time.
That's my answer.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, I think I can improve on that. I think it's pick your best game most of the time. Especially let's say you're me. You're not going to really trick anybody into thinking I'm bad at limit hold'em, unfortunately. Sure. That's just part of the deal. But one thing that I think we can objectively speak on is, and this is just really astute of Austin here to talk about this is picking the game based on your stack size, and I don't think people think about this a lot. So when you are a short stack, the answer is very simple. Pick a game with an ante, because you inherently have an overlay when you're short enough to be all in on the hand, because it doesn't matter what position you're in. If you're an ante, then you're all in and other people are betting on the side to get you out of the pot. So that's no limit hold'em, and that's stud games, right? Stud games are definitely the game to choose when you're like a micro stack. So you definitely want to be, because you have if you end up being the bring in, there's no penalty.
A lot of protection is what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of protection. So, and normally the thing about stud games is it sucks if you're a bring in, but if you're actually going to be all in, it's no big deal to be the bring in.
Yeah.
You're just going to defend
going in anyway,
and you're going to see all 7 cards. So you're good. That's not a problem. You definitely get the most value.
Wouldn't you want to be the bring in? Because that's one less person that's going to be more likely to enter the pot.
Yeah, you could. I mean, it depends exactly what your size is. If you have if you can ante all in, then being the bring in is fine. But if you have say 1 raise, then you would want to not be the bring in so that you can complete and you can isolate, or you can re-raise and isolate. But yeah, so stud probably higher raz, probably not stud high low. But no limit hold'em for slightly larger stack sizes, because you get the leverage of if you've got 7 big blinds, you can move all in and you win the antes and nobody calls. So that's really a good thing. Triple draw games, obviously, especially the not split pot ones, always play bigger. you're kind of forced to go to the river. He says, I'm worried about that I'll get called down by inexperienced players in the draw games by poor players. Now, the thing that Austin may or may not realize here is that in the draw games, you're often correct to chase, right? Like, you know, the kind of fundamental triple draw deuce to 7 error obviously is folding on the flop. Is folding on the flop. I mean, you see people fold on the flop, you immediately know that this person's not very experienced in this game. But great strategy stuff.
That is,
and all that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, rather than rely on people getting it right on stack sizes, I think, because they'll interpret things wrong or whatever. The suggestion of just playing your best game every time, you might make less mistakes. But if you have the insight,
play stud if you're really short. If that's the only adjustment that you've and everything. I'm very long-winded, I know, because I was just told that I was long-winded. But if you're going to take anything away, if you just choose your best game and then play stud when you're super short.
What about when you're super deep?
When you're super deep, you definitely want to play your best game because
you want to play your best game.
You're going to go to showdown, right? Like if you're playing PLO and you're bad at PLO, you have the opportunity to make like a gigantic mistake against the PLO player. So if you're deep, you definitely just always play your best game.
Okay. All right. His third point is living in the U.S. I'm excluded from the Pokercast Invitational. Any chance Pokerstars would entertain a play money weekly invitational so U.S. listeners could play?
I think people have asked this before, right? Yeah.
I think they have. I figure they could add some play money to the prize pool and maybe throw in some PokerStars gear for the top finishers. Or maybe you could offer some of the new PokerCast shirts. Make the buy-in something greater than 1,000 chips so the entire world can't reload and buy in, maybe 1,500. Not sure what the interest would be, but I'm sure if Ross simultaneously live streams playing the real money and play money, it would generate some interest.
I'd love to do that.
Thanks again for all the great shows, Austin. So I think that's a really good idea. And I don't know if somebody's mentioned it before. I don't remember, and I apologize for not latching onto it because I think it's a real good idea, and I'll approach PokerStars this week with something like that. I think
this guy's in a submarine. Like, can't he just list a different home address?
Yeah, right. He's underneath. Yeah, he's like 20,000.
I mean, I know that whatever it is, Baker Island or whatever it was that's at the equator in the International Date Line. I think
Baker Island. Wow.
Yeah, that's I know that's U.S. territory. I think that literally nobody lives there, and U.S. just has submarines and boats there to bomb anybody. Or I don't know what it is.
Next one from Brian Engstruck. Just listening to the episode.
Ken Engstruck is what I have.
Did I say Brian?
You did say Brian.
It's not even close to Ken.
No, it's not.
How did I get Brian?
I mean, they're both
Ken?
English names, but that's about it.
Maybe I know a Brian Engstruck. From Ken Engstruck. Just listening to I cut some out because sometimes we can't get through the entire email. We got to pick and choose some parts.
Yeah, you people are also long-winded.
He did email. You guys are all long-winded. He sent in a question before, and we answered. He says he's just listening to it. Thanks so much for taking time to answer the question. The wife listened with me, and she's now pushing me to play the $1,500 10 game, no matter what. I think he was talking about the 6-hand. Was it the same guy? No, it's not. Anyway, it's different guy because we've had a few people their first trip to the World Series. I do have a funny story about my wife listening to the podcast. I know that you consume a lot of podcast content, so maybe you'll understand the story. I listen to podcasts on iTouch that has double speed. So now I'm used to listening to yourself and Terrence and all the other podcast hosts I listen to talk at twice their normal pace.
All right, now you're going to have to half speed this guy just to tilt them.
Yeah. However, my wife does not listen to podcasts, so when I was playing your response to my question for her, I had to slow it down to normal speed. What I didn't realize in my brain is that in my brain, your normal speaking voice is now at double speed. So when I listen to your response at normal speed, it sounds like in my ear that you're hammered.
Wow.
I found myself somewhat unconsciously taking you and Terrence a little less seriously because it sounded in my ear like we were both sloshed. I've now listened to two of my other favorite podcasts at normal speed just for fun. Now to me, Dan Carlin's normal voice sounds like a thespian talking slowly for dramatic effect.
Which is almost exactly what Dan Carlin is, which is why Dan Carlin is awesome, by the way.
His delivery is awesome.
That's a lot of information to take in at double speed.
Yeah,
that's true.
Jesus Christ.
Whereas Adam Carolla's normal voice now sounds to me like a full-blown mentally challenged person. Anyway, thanks for the response to my question, Ken. We talked about that earlier. Listening to shows at twice.
I don't know how to react to that. I don't know whether I want to slow down and start speaking more slowly.
Or speed up, go really fast.
Exactly. Yeah. You just got screwed on that one.
to mix in a little both.
We should have read it all.
Yeah, we got to change up our strategy so that people can't exploit us, right? We have to balance our speaking speed so that people can't exploit by hitting the double speed button.
Hey guys, I recently moved from Philly to LA. We need the Fresh Prince drop in there, and I was surprised by all of the minor differences in the games. For example, the 1-2 no limit games I was mostly playing on the East Coast was a $60 to $300 buy-in, where games in LA were like 1-2 with a $40 to $60 buy-in, or 1-3 with $50 to $100 buy-in, or comparable depending on the room. The Bikes 2-3 game is the smallest game I've found where you can even buy in for 100 bigs. Other big differences I've noticed are the rake versus the drop. I'm not sure what the difference is.
What does that mean? That's the same thing.
Dealers playing their own card rooms. Or
maybe it means a jackpot drop?
Or maybe the time?
I think he does.
Maybe they take
the time charge. Yeah, I think a lot of East Coast places do time charges.
Okay. But dealers playing in their own card rooms, even on the clock, and way more prop players. All that has made me curious about how their poker regions and rooms do business. I would love to hear you guys compare and contrast these kinds of standards and practices in different rooms around the world. Also, Adam talks tangentially about his days as a prop in LA, and I'm curious to hear more about that experience. What was your average work week? Was making enough money easy or difficult? What kind of bankroll, etc.? Do you have some good stories from that days? Anything you feel like sharing would be pretty interesting. Okay, so
story time with Adam.
First, let's talk about drop versus rake, right? This is what. Time charge versus rake.
Right.
Well, first of all, when you move to LA, you move to the most expensive drop. The commerce is insane. I think the drop in the 918 game, I want to say, is $7 or something crazy.
It's jackpot and
add in the bad beat jackpot and
dealer tipping.
It's crazy.
Now, luckily, it's kind of worth it.
The games are really good. They always have been because of is it because of the high rake that keeps serious players out?
It could be potentially that, but I feel like it's really just that people have money to burn
in LA. Yeah, the amount of money that place takes in is crazy.
That's amazing.
It takes out of the poker.
If it's anything, I mean, with respect to the poker economy, it's the lack of table games in California, right? Like that, or in LA. That's got to be a big chunk of it. Just the fact that you can't really go dump it on blackjack or baccarat.
Well, you can,
but it's different.
Yeah, it's different. People are intimidated by it.
Right.
Drop versus time charge.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because when you play in a time charge room, a lot of times you do the time pot. Time pot, which people, I find, play incorrectly a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah. You should be playing insanely tight in a time pot. I mean, and it should be obvious, and you would think it's obvious, but it's surprisingly not.
It's not.
Like, I've folded ace queen to one raise and in a time pot, and I didn't even think about it, right? Like, it should be really obvious. So just any time you can get people in a time pot, you should do it, because there's always going to be somebody who does it wrong.
Almost all of them play way too wide. Because it's like a third of the pot is rake, or a quarter of the pot or something. Depends on how high you're playing. But if you're playing a mid-level game and the drop is, let's say, $8 an hour, and you're playing with 5 or 6 people,
it's not even close.
It's like a $50 drop on the hand or something.
So it's obviously it's to your benefit to be playing the time charge game if people are willing to do the time pot.
Drop is we talked about earlier with just talking about the commerce and how expensive it is. You really got to be careful, and the game has to be really good to be able to overcome that high rake. Especially if you're going to play it long term. If you're there for fun, a week, whatever, you're just goofing around, that's one thing. If you're there and you're trying to make a living and pay your rent and your food, you better be careful exactly in measuring how good the game is versus what the drop is. Because you run into the commerce and it's really bad in some areas. That 918 game is pretty
sure. I don't know. I haven't grinded cash games in LA for a really long time. I don't know if you have either. Maybe your brother would be the best person to speak of this. But it seems like it's kind of hard to get in a bad game in LA.
He ends off the email. Thanks for putting on a great show each week, year after year. I'm missing Mike, but I've been a T. Chan fan since the first time I heard him on the show back in the day.
If you want to improve your LA live cash game, definitely subscribe to CLP.
Good plug.
Absolutely right. Stories from so I wasn't a prop at Hollywood Park, by the way.
You were just there long enough
I could have been because I played 10, 12 hours a day for a long period of time. But so just as far as that goes, I wasn't a prop. I was a player, and it was the golden age of limit hold'em. So I wasn't very good at the time, to be perfectly honest.
But you didn't have to be.
I didn't have to be. I was just kind of a little bit better than some of the people around me. It was a weird place. Hollywood Park, for those that don't know, is in Inglewood, California, which is close to LAX. Yep. It's maybe 3 or 4 miles inland from the LAX is right on the water.
Yeah. There's lots of people stopping on their way to the airport. Like they were going to leave town, and then they see the Hollywood Park sign, and then they drop in a plane, and then they miss their flight because,
exactly.
people are degens.
A lot. So anyway, so it's a place where I spent a lot of time and learning my sort of chops, so to speak, in live poker. The very first time is you might appreciate this. I don't know if I've ever told you the story. I've definitely told it on the show, but ages and ages ago, and we got a lot of new listeners, so I'll quickly tell it. The very first time I decided to drive down to LA and go play ended up being at Hollywood Park because you could stay at the Crown Plaza LAX for
across the street,
$55 a night or something, and it's a decent hotel. So I did that, but we drove. A friend of mine decided to come with me, and his name was Jimmy Shen. And I don't know if you remember Jimmy Shen.
I do know this story.
Oh, you know the story?
Go ahead.
So Jimmy and I decide to drive down to. Jimmy's an Asian guy. His English is a little choppy, but he's a great guy. Good travel companion. And we decided to drive down to LA. And I saved up some of my bankroll. We're playing in the 10-20 game at the time. And I think I saved up like $3,200 or something small, and I decided that was enough to drive down to LA with. And Jimmy,
good bankroll management.
Oh yeah, fantastic, right? And Jimmy had more because he's a family guy, and I was blasting my money off in the bar every night. Jimmy, of course, was saving, doing well. So anyway, we decided to hop in my minivan. I had a minivan at the time, a beaten up old minivan, and we were going to drive to LA. Well, we stop in Seattle first, and it's the Emerald Queen Casino, and some of the best players in the Northwest would play in this game. It was a 2040 limit hold'em game, and Mark Gregorich is a guy that was from there, and there's guys that were really, really good. We decided that Jimmy and I are, we're going to sit down and play in this 2040 on our stop over, and I blasted off half of my roll in this 2040 game. So I've got like 1,700 left. And instead of turning around and driving the 3 hours home, I think that's plenty. 1,700, I can still, what are you talking? I'm not going to run bad. No problem. We hop in the minivan, we drive down to LA, we start playing in the Hollywood Park. I run good at the start, and I run my bankroll up. We're playing 15-30, of course. I'm playing in the smallest game in the big section, which is a 15-30 game. Which
free
is
food, right?
Free food and free money, to be honest. The game was ridiculous. Like, if you just screwed it down and played tight, and you were which
I hope you're doing if you have 60 bets in your entire bankroll.
The games, you'd be like raising 7 callers. It was just insane time for limit hold'em. So anyway, I ran good, and I managed to run good at the beginning, and I run it up pretty good. Jimmy did quite well as his own self. So about like a month after we get there, I want to say, we decide that we want to go. We've heard about this place called the Commerce. And we're at Hollywood Park in near the water. Commerce is east of, and it's directly east of Hollywood Park. And we're not from LA. We don't really know anything about LA. We have a giant map. So we look at the map and we're trying to find the best way to get to the Commerce. And Jimmy's our navigator because I hop in it's my car. I hop in. I say, here, Jimmy, have a look at the map and tell us how to get to the Commerce. So he does. We hop out. We're right on Century Boulevard, which is the main street that goes from one side of LA to the other, or one of the main streets. So instead of trying to pick a route to a freeway, doing the logical thing, I say, Jimmy, which way do we go? And we get to Century, and he goes, okay, go east on Century, he says. So I go east. Okay, fine. Go east on Century. And I start looking around, and this is like Friday at like 8 o'clock at night or something. It's dark, and I'm looking around, and I'm not really liking the neighborhood we're in. I'm thinking this this might not be the safest route. But
everybody in LA who's familiar with this is already laughing at your story.
They're howling at me, right? Because here I've got like 10 grand in cash on me because we're going to go play big limit. Jimmy's got like 10 grand. We're in a minivan with Canadian plates on it, and Jimmy, an Asian dude with a map in the passenger, and we're trying to figure out how to get to the Commerce. Well, we end up going, east a long way on Century. And I said, Jimmy, where are we? This doesn't look good. Where are we? What part of town are we in? And he looks down at the map and he says, Watasa. And I go, oh my God. Nice.
I'm coming straight out of town.
Well, we were like,
when something happens in South Central Los Angeles, nothing happens. It's just another nigga dead.
Ouch.
Dead.
NWA. We were about 20 blocks north of Compton. We were in Watts. And I go, Jimmy, you remember the riots?
Not a lot better off than Compton.
I go, you remember the big riots?
About the same, I think.
I said, this is where they started. This is a tough part of town. And like I said, we are somewhat conspicuous. So I'm driving through. I'm like, oh, my God, how do I get to a freeway? I got to get out of here. I know this isn't a good place to be on a Friday night. If we get, pull up to a stoplight and everybody looks in our car. Of course, we just, we're idiots, Canadian guys. We see the news and think this is a war zone or whatever, right? So we're panicking. We finally get off, find a way to the freeway, and I'm like running yellow lights everywhere I can go and drive 100 miles an hour, finally get on a freeway and get out. But that was a bit scary driving through the bad area, being the idiots that we were. Some other stuff at the Hollywood Park. There was a 40-80 game, and it was one of the greatest games. You always talk about the biggest game in the house is always the best game in the house, and this was the case in this game. There was a 40-80 limit hold'em, full of like people that can't even spell hold'em. It's as Helmuth might say. It was great. Mario Puzo, who wrote the original Godfather book, who's the original author, his daughter was played every day in the game.
Oh,
and
she must be broke, right?
No, far from it. But her favorite card is a deuce. And it was, if she would play any hand with a deuce in it. So normally when you're playing Hold'em, you'll get to the river like 4 ways, and if a deuce rolled off, it's usually
that's a brick.
Perfect.
That's a brick.
A deuce rolled off. Well, if
this
she was
is her
in the
guaranteed
game,
2-pair hand.
If she was in the game, it wasn't perfect.
2-pair or a set.
It was 2-pair or a set. No.
Or the old ace 3-4-5 board. It's not where you want to be.
I don't know why, but she would play a deuce to the river every time, and so that made the game crazy. You never know what to hope for anymore, which was
a 3. I think is the answer. You were hoping for a 3.
No, because she's got deuce 3. But anyway,
oh my God,
it was a lot of fun, that game to play in. A lot of people, that would go on to play poker. John Fan was in this game a lot. Who else? There was a lot of people that went on to be, LA poker superstars, so to speak.
What do you think your hourly was back in the 40-80 game back in the day? I mean, if you had to take a stab at it,
in there, but I think if I would have played a lot, I'm gonna say it would have been even. I was better than average, but 2 or 3 big blinds per 100.
I mean, that's shocking. I mean, we're talking about, again, pre-shuffle machines, anything like that. So we're talking about maybe 30 hands an hour at the best.
Yeah.
We're talking about, like, imagine if you told people that you're going to crush like 7 poker tracker BB 100 at limit hold'em.
Well, here, put it this way: like on the river, it would be check to you. You'd bet, you get 3 calls, and 1 pair would be good.
Yeah,
like all the time.
All the time. Yeah,
it was like that. One night we're in there. Till about I don't know, whatever, it was some ridiculous hour. There was only like 3 games going at the time in the high limit area, and it was one of those situations. I was stuck and pissed off, whatever, and we're all like that. We're all sitting around just grumpy as shit because we're still here. We're all stuck, and in walks like a half a dozen guys, clearly from Saudi Arabia, Oman, somewhere like that. And you just kind of, what the heck? It's like a mirage.
Yeah.
Like, Wile E. Coyote when he's in the desert and he sees like a an oasis. That's exactly what it was like. We all just kind of, are we seeing what just happening?
Yeah.
And these guys walk in, 6 of them, and one guy has a leather Merce with him. And the rest of the 5 guys all sit down at some of the tables. And the Merce guy opens up his Merce, and he goes around and he throws $10
cash
bricks with the band at every
$10,000 bricks.
$10,000. Yeah. We're playing 15-30 limit hold'em, right? And 20-40 limit.
It's really hard to lose 10,000 to 15-30.
It is hard. These guys managed to do it. So they throw this money around. And we're just like, everybody's like, oh shit. We all like, okay, can I borrow? I don't have enough.
Yeah,
lend me
everybody's
$3,000.
calling their friends. Yeah,
right, because you didn't bring enough, or it's at your safe or wherever.
Yeah.
And you just need to get the money on the table as soon as possible. Even though it's limit hold'em, these guys are going to be in every pot through, and they were. They literally played every hand, every pot to the river, and then kind of seeing what happened. And if they won a giant pot like this, it was totally worth it that they got there drawing dead, most of the way.
Yeah, totally.
And it was the most insane sort of 4 or 5 hours. And they ended up staying for like 4 or 5 days, I want to say, and the room exploded. Like, as soon as word got around LA,
did they like run out of chips? Like, you kind of hear that story of like Thomas Keller winning every $100 chip or 20, a chip, and like I feel like the Commerce might run out of chips that the game would be so good.
And then they discovered, and I've talked about this before, they had a 5-5 PLO pot limit hold'em game. One of the only open sort of games or big bet games in LA at the time. There was one at Commerce, one there, and these guys discovered this game, and all of a sudden we don't have to bet the same
one
amount
at a time. Yeah,
this is great. So they ended up having 2 5-5 pot limit hold'em games run for the 3 days, and these guys were in them.
Oh my god!
And
you probably never wanted to go home and sleep.
Well, the floorman was a buddy of mine.
Yeah,
and it was he just got me in the game.
Awesome.
I put my name on the list. I didn't ask questions. I ended up in the game. And these guys were beauties. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. And again, I was a limit hold'em player, but I knew enough to play tight.
You know how to play. You know how to read your hand.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they must have gone off for.
So you basically you've actually had 100% rake pack on all the gas that you've ever put in your car. Because basically that money all went to Saudi Arabia and then came back in the form of that game. So you basically never paid for gas, is what you're trying to say.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly what happened. Anyway, those are a couple of stories from my Hollywood Park days that I have told before, but, new listeners. Is this getting long? Should we a couple more, or what do you want to do?
Let's do it.
Couple more? Hey guys, I'm a listener from Norway. Found your podcast 2 months ago and have been downloading your podcasting and listening while at work. I love it. Going to the Norwegian Championship of Poker in Dublin this month. What?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know it sounds weird. Poker just got legal with some restrictions in January here in brackets.
No
any
legal
tips?
poker. No, right.
Yeah, got any tips when I'm going to play the main event? The buy-in is €800. It's a bit out of my bankroll, but I have to play this one. Thanks, guys. Kim.
I want to know what the official language that you are. Is there an English only
Norwegian
rule
only?
English only rule of the table at the Norwegian Championship of Poker in Dublin?
Yeah, that's odd. It's a bit like the EPT being in Jamaica, or not Jamaica, in the Bahamas.
EPT Jamaica.
That would be great.
Well, it's not like EPT Bahamas is any better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So tips for playing in a €800 tournament that's a bit out of his bankroll range.
Whoa, that's tough. First
don't
of all,
do it.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't tell anybody it's out of your bankroll range. Sell action. I mean, sell action is the obvious one, I guess. Yeah. Sell action at par. Find as many friends as you can who are willing to buy pieces of you at par. I mean, there's nothing. I don't know. How intimidated he is to sort of play at this level, whether he's comfortable playing against these opponents. I think if he's an online player, we're not given a lot of kind of information to work with to know a lot about this guy. But if he's an online player...
He's an idiot from Northern Europe.
Idiot from Northern Europe.
But if he's a regular online player, which probably if you're listening to this podcast he is, then I think the level of competition he'll probably be fine. But don't tell anybody you're playing over your head. Try to sell action.
Satellite.
Don't play too tight on the bubble. I don't know. Like it's tough. That's a tough spot.
Yeah. What I would say is don't go saying you're definitely going to play. Maybe you play some cash.
Yeah.
Maybe try and, even play some 1-2 and win a couple €100 maybe or something. Where you
it won't be the last tournament. Like, I understand, if your country recently just got legal poker, I can definitely understand the
You want to be the first champion in the Norwegian Open.
Yes.
As a Norwegian.
Yes, and doing it in Dublin would just be a
good story.
Would be a bonus. But it's on the way. I mean, it's there's online poker. There's everything out there. I mean, this is the thing. When I was first starting out, I did this similar things. I drove to Washington State to play like a $40 whatever no limit hold'em tournament, and you can do stuff like that. But I don't think. I mean, I imagine I don't know anything about the Norwegian Championship of Poker, but I if they have any kind of side event, I would have to imagine that the side event would be less than €800, right?
Yeah, no, and €800 if he's going there, it sounds like it's not going to put him in the poorhouse. Or
no, it is actually. I've got I guess the smallest one. Yeah, I guess. It is actually. I'm looking at the Norwegian Live Championship schedule anyway, and they are actually all fairly large buy-ins. There's a €300, but it's a ladies' event. Don't play that one unless you're a lady.
Yeah.
And the €500 one is a fixed limit tournament, which if you're a no limit player doesn't help. So,
Yes.
Yeah. As it turns out, that's kind of surprising that you would think an inaugural event would have a smaller buy-in event, but there will be other opportunities, or play lots of satellites on Stars, because I'm sure they have those too.
Next one, via Twitter, at DPBuck. Easy one. Rec player, been to the World Series of Poker before, but playing my first main event this year. Any tips? Wow.
Well,
love it. It's mysterious.
Here's the thing.
That's Mike walking into the Teddy KGB's club. I don't know if it should be that intimidating. Yeah, first main event. I mean, we've obviously get a lot of questions along these lines. Any tips?
Day one. Let's talk about day one.
Yeah.
Because that's the day that, everybody's
if it's your first one, definitely get there early, take in the experience. I'm now jaded enough that I'm going to show up like 10 minutes, 15 minutes late because I know there's going to be speeches. And, oh, look at this celebrity and that celebrity, and the national anthems being played and fireworks are going off and crazy shit. But
Mr. Peanuts dancing around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so obviously get there early, take it all in, have fun. If you're my best pro tip is probably, if it's not going to be your big blind when the level's ending, leave early and get to the bathroom, because if it's your first event, you probably don't know where all the bathrooms are.
Yeah.
So like if you've been playing the World Series for 8 years, you know exactly where every bathroom is and how long it takes to get there. But I assure you, if you're at all confused, you're not going to make it. Like you're not going to make it there and back in 20 minutes.
For bathrooms, what I'd say is to walk all the way back to the Rio.
Yes.
And there's one just as you get back in to the right. Just
there's a lot on the Rio side, on the casino floor, which are way less useful. But again, if it's his first World Series, you're going to spend time wandering around, wondering where that bathroom is.
It's right. I'll tell you where. It's right across from Buzio's.
Yeah,
and there's a bathroom there. And why I suggest that one is it gets you for a walk.
Yeah, it's important.
It's almost perfect timing to walk from the poker room to that one,
stand in the line, and then
go to the bathroom and come back. It's almost 20 minutes or whatever the break is, and it gives you a chance to move your legs, stretch a little bit. I think that's a good one. Clear your mind. Unfortunately,
I go outside. I go outside.
Yeah,
I like the porta potties outside. But they smell bad. But it's nice to always get some pseudo fresh air. There's obviously a lot of cigarette smoke and weed smoke and all that going on. But
but as far as day one stuff, here's what I'll say: don't be in a hurry. At all. The old saying, you can lose the tournament. You can't win in the day one, you can lose it. But don't, I would try and pass up like marginal spots. I don't get, if it's your first time, if you're not used to sitting there trying to take advantage
you're going to be in a comfort zone. And be aware there are going to be pros that sort of are taking advantage of recreation players doing this, but you're also not giving up a ton in the levels.
Exactly. So, and keep an eye out for and categorize people, because it's really easy in the main event of the World Series, and a lot
it's
of
the
people,
most exploitive tournament, and people who know me know that I generally take a game theoretical approach to poker. But if there's any one tournament where it's worth really deviating and really paying attention to what other people are doing and trying to take advantage of them, it's the main event.
The other thing is be friendly at the table, because I think that's going to gain you not only some friends, and you're going to enjoy your time, but you'll tend to get a lot of breaks from people. It's a camaraderie type thing.
People don't value bet you.
I'm in the main event, so you and I are buddies, and he's going to roll over top pair of the river kind of thing. I mean, that happens a lot.
Conversely, don't be afraid to thin value bet people, and definitely don't be afraid to like overbet for value, because people are so cally, especially when once it's been like 3-4 hours into the tournament, and that sort of initial fear that oh my god, I'm in the main event stuff is worn off. People just call off really light, I find, in the main event when they're poor players. I mean, don't try this on pros. Anybody who looks like a pro, obviously, you're just trying to play your best game against them. But anybody who has given you indication they might be a little bit fishy, like it's this weird thing. But like, yeah, just don't be afraid to like really value bet for a lot, or other people who are scared, don't be afraid to bluff them either. I mean,
indeed.
Dinner break suggestions too. I mean, dinner break's a rough one. I don't know if you get 75 or 90 this year, but assuming that you get 90, it's enough time to leave the property if you plan it really well. Yep. I suggest having a spouse. Yeah, ping pong pong across the street is okay. Or if you have a spouse or a friend who is not playing that day, get them to get a table for you, because you are not getting a table by yourself unless you have the aforementioned diamond card.
Get out of the Rio. Just go somewhere.
My most favorite thing to do for dinner breaks on the main event is to drive to Chinatown. Yeah, because it's a very short drive. Away. It's 2 blocks away, so you just run in your car, you drive to Chinatown.
Korean, there's all kinds of different food you can get there.
Spring Mountain Road.
Real good, yeah. Last one.
Okay.
We got through most of them.
Nice.
Hey, Adam and Terrence. Great job on keeping the show such a high quality after the departure of MJ. Still not sure I believe his reasons for leaving, but I have a theory it was due to a sharp rise in the price of ums. My question is about
another...
drop?
I got it.
He's asleep at the wheel.
Joe, and so the
I'm never going to get tired of this. Assholes.
Never get tired of that. My question is about another fine but overlooked area of the 2+2 world, the online 2+2 magazine. As an occasional author and frequent reader of it, I find it very interesting, informative, and even funny articles there. It would even be better if we get some lively discussions going in the magazine forum after people read the articles, because that's the one big perks of having it being online. Maybe one of you could read a comment on an article there every so often, get things jump-started. Sincerely, SG Special. P.S. Remind Terrence to get his weekly poke at Raz. You had a chance.
Do I do that?
We were talking about
I didn't know that was a thing that I did.
And you're anti-Raz. I believe you're
but really kind of everybody's anti-Raz. Like even people, like even
you
Grapes.
Think it's fashionable. Even Grapes is one of the best
Grapes
Raz players in the world.
Made more money at Raz than anybody I know is like anti-Raz. Yeah.
Indeed. So the magazine, I think it's fantastic. And I don't know if people have spent enough time or even know about it. There's a magazine that each month, and it's a wide variety of topics that people write on. Check it out. It's top left of the 2+2 website. It says 2+2 magazine. There's all kinds of great stuff. Now, one of the things I get asked about a lot is beginning Omaha 8 or better strategy, because there's very little stuff out there that you can find.
That's been written this decade, certainly.
That's been written this decade that's any good. And because the game's, obviously, like every other game, is changing. So there's some really good stuff in the magazine this month. This part 2 is actually this month. And part 1 was last month. So there's an author who's taken some time to break down some stuff if you want to get a handle on some stuff, some educational stuff on Omaha high-low split. I think that's the place to go. Did we get everything? We did.
Cool.
That was
we love it, though.
We love it.
Please don't stop sending stuff. So please email us, pokercast@2plus2.com. Twitter, he's Pokercast Adam. I am T-Chan Poker. On the forums, pokercast.2plus2.com. Send it every way. And
at Pokercast Ross.
Pokercast Ross as well. Yeah. So send it all our way. Although if you add everybody, then you don't have room for a question. But
that's true.
But please,
it warms my heart when people tag me and ask me questions.
Yeah, it's great. I love this stuff. I really like doing the listener interaction. It's really fun.
That's my favorite part.
We forgot to plug Twitch. I'll be doing that on Sunday.
You're gonna roll with the Invitational again?
Yeah, and hopefully we get that that we can play with the Americans. If we figure that out.
It's probably not going to happen this week.
That won't happen this week.
No. In the play money.
We'll have to take some time to set that up. We need 3 levels of approval. You heard Hartigan. That thing just doesn't happen.
Right. That's true.
Thanks to everybody for listening to the show. Yeah, we're out of stuff now. We have no more emails. We need a fresh batch, so send them in.
Send it in.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the show. We're Terrence for coming in. Ross for producing us. Great job with the drops, as always.
He loves that one.
Love that drop. That's great. And you, the listener, for tuning in and including us in your weekly podcast listening. Podcast. That's Jay and Dan.
Oh, I thought that was for the people listening on double speed.
No. Do you remember the guys, the SportsCenter Canada?
Oh, yeah.
Jay and Dan.
Of course, yeah.
They moved to Fox Sports 1, and they do their podcast. Here's a favorite thing. We forgot favorite things. If you at all know Jay and Dan or like funny podcasts, they do a sports kind of themed one that's hilarious. It's called the Jay and Dan Podcast. One of the things I listen to all the time. Favorite things? Anybody got off the top of your head? No? Nothing?
I made this.
Phone apps and movies and NPR podcasts. Love catching fishes and check raising rivers. We have great taste to listen to our choices. These are a few of our favorite things.
The singularity is not here yet. I think that's the lesson we learned from that.
Favorite thing.
We did not make it to the singularity. So. Save favorite things for next week.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can save it.
Right.
Somebody.
Keep going to the favorite things thread if you want more favorite things.
Yeah. I took a little flack on my my singing voice. I'm going to take it as a karaoke challenge, Mr. Yak. If you want to, we can do heads up karaoke.
Is that a throwdown? Are you calling them out?
Yeah.
Heads up karaoke for rolls?
Yeah, heads up karaoke for rolls.
Sounds good.
Live on Twitch.
Thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Let's go with movies, and then we can I can embarrass myself because that's meant to be a subject I know something about.
Yeah, you're a movie guy.
Allegedly.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, the 2+2